Okay, guys, so now we're moving on to the basics. These are all the things that you're going to actually be able to implement into your life. So we've covered our intro and we've covered mindset, which is really important. So now you're in the perfect position to be able to execute on all of these things. But you're actually going to need the proper knowledge now. You're going to actually have to go out into the fields and do the correct body language. Otherwise, having the best mindset in the world, it's the trigger for all of this. But what's it going to do if you're not actually doing the correct things, okay? And giving out the correct signals. Okay, guys, so I want to talk about how this is going to improve your life, okay? And you've probably all been in a scenario where you felt like the beta male in a certain scenario, where you got pushed out the way, where somebody didn't take you seriously, where you were trying to talk to a woman and she wouldn't even look at you. You did the incorrect things, you started acting weird, you were looking down, etc. You weren't stood in the right way, you weren't walking in the right way. Something was off. You could be a real handsome, tall guy or something like that, but it just didn't quite work, And that's what we're going to look into here, and that's how it's going to improve your life. Body language is like 90% of communication, okay? So it's not the words that are coming out of your mouth, it's how you're saying them, but it's also like the way that your body's moving. Women are fantastic at reading body language. You've got other guys around you that will subconsciously, see the way that you're moving, the way that you're sat, the speed that you're moving at, etc., the way that you walk, the way that you conduct yourself. And that will change the way that you're viewed by other people, the way that you're respected by other people. And body language is also an influence on your brain chemistry and your body chemistry. So you can actually increase testosterone and you can change your mindset based on the way that you stand, the way that you move, power poses, etc. It creates social dynamics where you're the leader in a certain group. People are watching you, listening to you. It creates dynamics in the workplace where people realize, okay, this guy's the boss. We should all listen to what he's going to say. We all know that person that necessarily might not be 6'4", might not be jacked, whatever. It helps. But when they talk, everyone shuts up and listens. That all comes from body language and tonality. And this is the things that we're going to look into here in this section of the basics course. Things that you can do on a daily basis. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's unconscious. Sometimes you do it organically. Over time, you'll learn it more and it will become a part of who you are. So there will be an element of faking it until you make it. But this is 24/7. Okay, this is the moment you wake up. When you wake up next to a woman, this is when you go and get your coffee in the morning from the person behind the till. This is when you go and do your food shopping at night, when you walk into a bar later that day. When you walk into the gym, the entrance that you make, the way you move, conduct yourself, the way you stand, every single element of your life, okay, involves body language. The amount of women that I meet that say, you have really intense eye contact, your body language is really good. I can read a lot about you based on the way you move and the things that you do. If you don't think this is like the main form of human communication, you're crazy. Okay then, guys, so one of the first things that we're going to start with, perhaps one of the most important things, because it is such a basic standard thing that you're doing in everyday life, is standing. Okay? Just standing still. So many guys have got a problem with just standing in one place. And we'll go through all of this point by point in a second, but I'll give out a basic scenario. You are stood with a friend, they go into a store, you're waiting outside on the street, waiting for them to come back out. What do? You pick up your phone, you try and find something to do, your hands are in your pockets, you're shuffling around, you're looking at the floor, you're scratching, you're looking everywhere. That's just nervous behavior. That's not something you want to be doing, okay, guys? So we're going to go through all these points here, all the things that can give you very, very good standing posture. And one thing I want to address, and this is why standing is such a great place to start, is it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit strange. And that's why I nailed the mindset stuff with you guys first, because you need to get it in here first, that some of this stuff is going to bring attention. And like I said to you, are you comfortable walking down the street with 20, 30 people looking at you? Are you comfortable stood in the manner that I'm about to lay out for you, with people looking at you going, that's an unusual way to stand. I haven't seen many people like that before. That's a confident guy. Like, for example, girlfriends that I've had in the past, in that exact scenario, they've gone into a store, they've come out, they've looked at me, and they've chuckled. And I've gone, what's the matter? And they're like, you stand so like strong, like a superhero, like a video game character. And I'm like, is it a problem? They're like, no, it looks good, it's sexy, like it just shows like strength or something like that. That's the thing. People are almost going to laugh. They're going to question it. They're going to look at you in a strange way and be like, Why is that guy so confident? What's he got to be, so happy about, so to speak? But then they like it. And that's something you need to get your head around. I've been told so many times, you look like an idiot, you're a dickhead, or whatever. It always leads to a positive. If you can just stay in those trenches, you can stick it out. People will always say, hey, actually, I quite like you. I don't know what it is. I think you're a dick, but I quite like you. And people just gravitate towards you. So we're going to go through all these steps now, guys. And the first thing I want to tell you, very basic, your feet need to be planted on the floor. So none of this shuffling shit, okay? Step to step, side to side, twisting, turning. You need both your feet just planted on the floor. Toes, heels, everything, okay? Just plant them on the floor. And the best way that you can stand, and we'll kind of move over to this in a second, is with your feet out at like a 45-degree angle. Okay, because that presents like an open posture. If your feet are inwards, it's very beta behavior. I don't like using the words alpha and beta, but for this kind of scenario, we're going to have to. But it's very beta, where your toes are inwards. It's very female. Think about man spreading. When people say men sit on a train and their knees are outwards like that in a wide open V shape, you're getting the same effect, okay? What do women do? They cross their legs. They have their knees together. That's female-like behavior. So you don't want your toes pointing inwards like that. If they're straight, it's kind of unbalanced. It doesn't look too good. You want them there, like a 45-degree angle pointing outwards, okay, guys? Gives you a very good structure, feet planted on the floor. That is like the ultimate basic and the first thing that you need to do, okay? Now moving on, which is something that connects to this, is legs wide. So when you're stood with your feet like that, you don't want it like this, okay, guys? I don't know if you can see, probably from that angle, it probably looks better. Imagine that's my right foot, that's my left foot. You don't want your feet like that, at that angle, really close together. You want to be shoulder width apart. That's the best way to do it, okay? So right foot there, left foot there, 45 degrees, shoulder width apart. And like I said, it makes you stand almost like a superhero. You've got that widespread stance. It's taking up space, which is something we'll get onto later on. It makes you have a more solid structure. And look, I've heard people say to me before, but Chris, that's not optimal for fighting. If somebody comes over and pushes you, you're going to fall backwards. That's not really the aim here, guys. We live in a modern world now where that's not happening 24/7. I've stood like that a million times, and I haven't had a fight in years. Not like with friends messing around, but I haven't had a proper fight in years. We live in a different era now. It's not something that we do, okay? So believe in what I'm trying to tell you. The results here are respect from men, life just getting better in general, attracting women, having the life that you want, increasing your own testosterone, feeling better about yourself. That's the only things that are going to matter. If you live in a society where somebody's going to just run up to you and push you over, you should probably move, because that just doesn't work, okay? So like I said, to recap, legs wide, about shoulder width apart, plant those feet on the floor, 45-degree angle, and stand firm, okay? That's the most basic thing. Think of any superhero, think of any character in a film that you respect, think of any, star of a Hollywood movie. When they do that panning out shot, that's the way that they stand. It really helps if you go to the gym and you get bigger legs, because you've got those thick quads and glutes, and it just gives you that strong base and that structure, makes you look very, very, grounded, gives you, like I said, a very strong foundation. That is essential to what we're trying to do, okay? It's the foundation of everything, and it's so easy to practice. If I talk about like a walk, or if I talk about other things we're going to get to later on, but standing is like, you're doing that every single day. You can just go somewhere, grab a cup of tea or something in your hand, and you can just stand and just have your feet planted outwards. You can do it at work. You can do it at your workstation. So many scenarios. You could be waiting for a bus. Just have your feet stood, have your feet planted, 45-degree angle, feet flat on the floor. I don't want them lifting up. I don't want you shuffling from side to side. There's other things that we'll get to in a minute, but that is like the foundational basic, okay? Now, the next one we're moving on to is an upright posture. So if you've got your feet planted 45-degree angle, all the stuff we just went through, and then your upper body is leant over, and you're kind of slouched and whatever, was not congruent, which is something that we will address later as well. You've got to be congruent across the whole body. That includes tonality, posture, that includes like your actions, the words you say, etc. We'll get to that later. But upright posture is essential, okay? So you've got to have your chin parallel to the ground. So your chin has got to be like that, parallel to the ground, which is also great for orthotropic, so it's a double benefit. But you can have your chin parallel to the ground, facing straight down. Stood upright with shoulders, at a decent length, kind of like back and down. So you look very relaxed. And then your feet planted at a 45-degree angle. And like I said, again, I will repeat it. You're giving out that superhero kind of vibe, where you've got that solid structure. Your whole body is like, it's kind of the double triangle. That's your base. And then if we flipped it, that's your upper. Okay, so you've got the kind of like hourglass. I know it's like a female thing, but you've almost got this hourglass kind of space filling thing. It's very masculine, where it's shoulder width apart, coming down into the narrow waist, and then narrow waist out into the wide legs. It's just a strong structure. If you've ever watched Superman, Batman, for example, the old school heroes, the new ones like Spider-Man, whatever, they'll have him stood like this. They'll have him looking like a petrified little boy. But if you look at Superman, if you look at Batman, they're always legs wide apart, strong, wide shoulders, chest elevated, shoulders back and down. Like, it's just arms to the side and wide. Like, that is the perfect structure. That's the base structure that any man should try and go for, okay? When you're waiting at a till, you're waiting for a bus, whatever it is you might be doing, you might be waiting in a line. Nail that structure, guys, okay? You might be waiting to go up to, like I said, go up to a till. Everybody in that till's just kind of like minding their own business, looking at the floor, scratching. Because I taught you in the mindset thing, women are always watching, and other guys feed off your body language, okay? And if you've been to the gym, you've got that solid structure, you could be stood in a line or a queue in like a cafe about to get a coffee for lunch. But because you've got that solid structure, and you're stood in the right way, you grab the attention of the best looking female in that room. So then when you walk past, she smiles at you, bang, something comes off the back of that. You get served quicker. It's just, you get multiple benefits in your life, all right, guys? So the next that we're gonna look at hands away from vulnerable areas. And this is essential for all parts of body language, but especially when you're standing still. What is, as I showed you guys, the first thing that you do when you stand still and you're on your own? You grab your phone. Okay, you grab your phone, what do? You put it in front of you, something like that, you're distracted. What's another thing that people do when they're stood still? This sort of stuff. The neck is a vulnerable area. So people are stood there, and they're like this, like, trying to look like this is almost a thing that people can't get over in the modern era. They want to look like a beta male because it's less invasive. You're not pissing people off. It's not very, you don't step on people's toes. Do you know what I mean? Whereas a guy stood there very confident, just aware of the world around him, people don't quite like it. You're going to ruffle feathers. So people almost try and act beta, like, I'm not here to offend anybody or hurt anybody. I'm just blending in with the furniture. It's what you don't want, okay? And they're like this, and they're scratching. And like I said, touching vulnerable areas. They put their hand in front of their stomach. They might grab their waist. I don't know if you can see. Like, I'll do some sort of video to show you guys. But they'll have their like hand over the waist like that. They'll maybe be like touching their neck, scratching the back of their heads. Like, this is all beta male behavior. This is things you can't be doing. If you've ever seen a woman in a club, she might have a handbag and she'll hold it in front of her stomach. Okay, when people have a drink, just pretend this is like a drink that I've just bought in a club. People will hold it like that in front of them. So this is a great example, because where do you stand still quite a lot? In a nightclub, in a bar. If you're standing, you'll be talking to friends. People stand with their drink like this in front of them. And it'll be right in front of their face and whatever, right in front of their neck, right in front of their body, like right in front of their midsection. Now, these are the vulnerable areas because you can die here, okay? Because this is the thing with body language, is it's ingrained in almost like primitive behavior. It's in our old school brains. I always talk to you guys about the reptilian brain, etc. It's all ingrained in there, but the neocortex, you have to override it. And this is a vulnerable area. You can die here, okay? This is very vulnerable. Your stomach, you've got all your vital organs. You can die there. You don't want to be punched. You don't want to be stabbed. So by standing, like, for example, if you stand with your arms folded like that, I don't know if you've ever seen women, they might stand like that. They might have their handbag in front of them when they're sat down. They'll cross their legs. It's all closed body language. It's a block kind of format. Crossing my legs to stop people getting to the vagina. This is exclusive. You can't get to it. You have to earn the right to open these legs up. Okay? You have to, like, I'm a beta male. I'm going to cover my waist like that. I'm petrified. I don't want anybody to see my neck. It's vulnerable. I'm going to hide it. You see people in vulnerable scenarios where they feel a little bit taken back and they're shitting themselves, and they'll be like this. Well, you know, when somebody gets nervous, we've all seen this. We can pick up on it. That's what body language is. It's an unconscious language that we all are fluent in. We just don't realize it. And you'll see somebody like in a weird scenario, like for example, just watching me now, you're probably thinking, yeah, Chris, you look quite beta. Where I'm going, yeah, you know, guys, like, well, the thing is, like, that's a panic move. That's what people do. So you guys have got to get comfortable. And this is one of the hardest things I have ever had to get good at having your hands by your side. Because it, like, not stood upright like that, like some weirdo doing a pencil dive, but just having them relaxed by your sides. Now, what helps with this is going to the gym, building a strong posture. That's why I made it so important in the mindset thing. Because if you do have strong muscles, their relaxed posture will be in a way that looks very good. You know, if you ever see somebody like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, when they do like a panning shot from distance of like the big scene in the movie, he's like that. And his body just stays still, and the elbows are bent in a certain way that the biceps and triceps are popping. Once you get to a certain size, Tom Hardy's a great example of it. Just standing still, you look amazing. And you've got to be okay if this is your drink. You've got to be okay with just having it down by your side. Okay, as low, like you wouldn't even be able to see it. If I was stood in the club, the drink would be right down by like where my hip is, if not lower, like as far as my arm could hold it down. It wouldn't be here. You know, out of nowhere, you might just grab your drink, go take a sip, and it's there, and then you consciously go, oh yeah, that's not good, and you move it to the side. That's okay, guys. Okay, that stuff's going to happen throughout your life. You can't always be perfect with your body language. So there's going to be moments where you have it there, you have to move it to the side, you have to put it down. Maybe, you know, when people, for example, you probably be able to see this, let's say I'm grabbing the drink here, you have to be able to hold it. Okay, let's do it that way because it's more like a cup. Yeah, hold it like that, down by your side. You know, when it just hangs? Rather than something like this where it's in front of you for the whole night and you're almost nervous and it's protecting you and it's in the way of people trying to get to you. I've got to protect my midsection because that's what people do. So that's removal of props as well, guys. Okay, so that's hands away from vulnerable areas and moving props away from your body. It's an essential thing. It's you'll see in the videos that we put out how I interact with objects around me, how I like grab a cup, the slowness of movement, the way I put it back down, the way I move things around the table, the way I move things to the side. It's not just your body, it's how you interact with everything around you, okay, guys? Now, the next one, as we slightly touched on in the previous with the arms, and it's more of a mentality thing, but it's becoming okay with doing nothing, which sounds so strange, but the amount of times I've been stood in a public area with probably, you know, in London with thousands of people walking past you, they're behind you, they're in front of you, the street's busy. Can you just stand still and do nothing? Just for example, hands by your side, very good strong posture, legs separated, 45-degree angle, taking up a ton of space, stood upright, people walking past you, and you're not like this. Like watching everybody. Oh, she's attractive. Oh, what's he doing? What's going on there? Like a fucking puppy dog. Okay? Can you just stand confidently in one space and just look out into the world, okay? Can you just look at what's going on? Can you just stand there and just watch slowly and just monitor the world and people are walking past you and they're staring at you? That guy's got really upright, strong posture and they're just looking at you and you're just getting on with your life. People are coming towards you and then walking around you and you're just standing your ground. Like, can you do that, guys? Which actually brings me on to my next point, which is stand your ground. Can you just stand in one place with strong posture, taking up a ton of space, wide stance, somebody's walking towards you, and you look at him and you're panicking and you start doing all this stuff because you're not good at body language yet, and you're like, sorry, buddy, and you like step to the side and shuffle, or, you know, you take a backward step. That's what so many people do. Never take a backward step, okay? Now, there's caveats to this. If it's an old woman, if it's somebody in a wheelchair, if it's a little child who's about to run into you, which I've had before, you might have to make an exception, okay? Don't be a dick. But in the majority of scenarios, just stand your ground. Just stand where you are. Plant your feet. Be like, this is my area. This is my space. My hands are relaxed. I'm comfortable with doing nothing. I don't have to grab my fucking phone and pretend, oh, somebody's just texted me because I'm a little pussy. I don't have to grab my wallet and start like, oh, trying to figure stuff out or just do whatever people fucking do. I'm just happy to just stand and just look out into the world. I'm okay with it. It's like, can you guys be okay with it? And additionally, to connect to this is the next point, eyes forward. So don't predator and prey. I explained predator and prey to you in the mindset section. I don't want you guys pretending you've got eyes on the side of your head like a rabbit. I need those predator eyes right here. This is your focus. You've got blinkers on. This is what you can see. If you want to look at something there, You know, and we'll get to speed of movement later on. But if you want to look at something there, just turn your head. That degree, that degree. You know, if you need to move your body at some point to go and have a look, you can move your body. But I don't want you guys stood there going, what was that noise? What was that? Who's behind me? Oh, sorry. You know, oh, he's coming towards me. Oh, sorry, mate. I better move. Oh, what's over there? What's over there? Like, it's just too much. It's rabbit behavior. You know, you're fucking flicking around too much. Like I said, stand, feet wide apart, upright posture. Become comfortable with doing nothing. Just stand confidently, survey the world. You know, like some lion out on the Serengeti, just surveying, just looking around. What's happening next? What's going on in my kingdom? That's how you have to be, okay? Because 99% of people on this planet are sheep. They'll just follow. They'll panic. They'll be, oh, sorry. Like that's how they fucking operate in day-to-day life. Oh, sorry. Sorry. You go first. You need to be the type of guy who just, you know, goes into a coffee shop and just goes, yeah, am I next? Yeah, and walks forward confidently. Just walk straight forward. Yeah, can I go? Brilliant. Just strolls up, stands confidently, upright posture, legs wide at the till, orders what they want, strong eye contact, okay, grabs it, moves out confidently again. You need to get in that rhythm because I promise you might be like, people are watching me. I feel nervous. Oh, if I just stand and do nothing and have that upright posture, everyone's going to think I'm weird. I've been doing this for a long, long time, guys. I thought that at the start. Over time, I realized everyone's a fucking pussy. They move out the way for you. They let you lead, they let you command. You start walking towards somebody with very good posture, or you stand still with very good posture, and they're on their phone and they look up and catch you. There's almost like a primitive thing where they just go and just move to the side. They start shuffling left, right. They don't know where to go. They start panicking. 99.9% of people on planet Earth are like that. They're pussies. If you start doing all this stuff, you watch the reaction that you will get from the general public. Okay, guys, next we're moving on to sitting, which, yeah, admittedly is going to have a lot of overlap with standing, but with acute differences that need to be looked into. Plus, is a major part of life. How often are you sitting for? How often are you, for example, you're going to the barbers, you're sitting and waiting, you know, not in the chair, but you're sitting and waiting for your hair to be done. You go to... You're in the office, you're sitting for 8 hours per day, okay? You're in a waiting room for a doctor's. You might be there for 30 minutes before you go into the next place. Like, you might be at a restaurant, a bar, a cafe. We sit quite a lot in this era, so it's a massively important aspect to body language as an overhaul. Like I said, it's going to be quite similar, but there's going to be slight differences, and you guys are going to understand what I mean by this. So the first and foremost thing is sit back in the chair, okay? And what I mean by that is if you ever look at a woman, for example, at a cafe, for example, in like a lounge chair, what they'll tend to do is sit on the edge of that chair. As a man, you need to get your ass back into the back of that chair, plant it right to the back, and get your, you know, I don't want to say back again, but your back needs to be right at the back of the chair. Okay, like that. Just sat in a solid manner. Every single chair that you sit in, that's the first thing you need to do. You might find yourself occasionally like not sat back in the chair, but just catch yourself in the moment. That's what I mean. Body language it's not automatic to begin with. So you might have to grab yourself, pick yourself up, and just sit back in the chair again and relax, feel comfortable. Now, the reason that we do this, because it's important to explain why, is if you're sitting on the edge of your chair, it means that you're not comfortable. Okay, you're not relaxed in that environment. That chair doesn't really belong to you. It looks like you're kind of, you know, like the Goldilocks thing. This isn't my chair, I'm sitting in somebody else's chair. It's that sort of vibe, okay? You're a little bit scared to sit in it comfortably. You don't feel relaxed in that environment. You don't feel in control. And I'm not shitting on women here. That's just their body language. That's their nature. That's what they do. But they will sit on the edge of the chair. They will cross their legs. They will, you know, look almost petrified to be in that environment, or just on edge. You know, when you're sat on the edge of your chair too, you're looking to escape at any moment. You know, you're kind of hands on there, sat on the edge of the chair. It doesn't look very relaxed. That's what you need to be as a man. That's the level of masculinity and composure that needs to be displayed throughout your body language, okay? One of, I own this domain. This area is mine. I'm comfortable in this environment. I will take this over. Like I said to you in mindset, moving stuff around the table, your phone, your wallet, whatever it might be, sitting back in your chair, taking ownership not only of your body and the people around you, but taking ownership of like the props and the furniture that you're sitting in, etc. That for me is sitting back in your chair is probably the most important first thing you can do, okay? Now, secondly, once you're sat in that chair, same as when you're standing, plant your feet and have them wide. Exactly the same. shoulder width apart, or because you're sat down, you can exaggerate it a little bit more. They can be a little bit wider, always at that 45-degree angle. And feet, like I said, flat on the floor. Okay, if you were sat there on your tiptoes, for example, or like you see some females do this, like there's so many women that I see do this in like offices when they're in the gym and they're sat on like a bench, like where they're sat on a bench of some sort and they're using dumbbells. Once they put the dumbbells down, they might go on their phone and they're foot tapping. I don't know if you guys have seen, but they're kind of like, it's going up and down. They're not relaxed, you know, they're shuffling their feet around. They're fidgeting. That's what they're doing. You need your feet flat planted on the ground, giving you that solid base, sat back in your chair with your feet at a 45-degree angle. And then most importantly, and this is something you can't necessarily do as well when you're standing, but when you're sitting, this is essential. And I do this as much as I can. I do it in two different ways, which I'll explain. Is I put my legs wide, okay? Man spreading. Do it. It's fucking fantastic. The world will tell you don't do it. You're taking up too much space. It's rude, but fuck all that. Put your legs wide. Have them at that like 45-degree angle, if not bigger, exactly as I'm showing you with my hands now. Have it wide, sat outwards. The reason we do this, because it takes up, number one, more space, especially when the feet are planted. It gives you that solid structure where you're sat back in that chair and you look comfortable and confident in your environment. But a massive step, and you guys have heard me talk about this before, is you put your bollocks and your testicles, or bollocks or testicles, and your penis on show, right? Which sounds very fucking stupid. I know, I get it. But you're displaying that to the world. You're displaying your genitals. You know, have you ever seen in a photograph, for example, where somebody might, the alpha male of the group might put his hands around two guys like that, or might put his hands around a guy. The guy in the middle, who's a little bit petrified or whatnot, have you ever seen a guy do that? Like they're defending a free kick in football where they put their hands cupped like that in front of their balls. And they kind of have this inward shoulder posture and they sit like that and they're covering up their nuts. The reason they're doing that is it's in here. It's all subconscious. You know, it's almost like a natural, look at me, I'm a beta male move. So many guys have got this ingrained in their heads and they'll cover up their testicles and they'll sit with like a hand in front of them, open them up. Show them to the world. I'll sit there on a date with a woman and I'll either stretch my legs out, as I was talking to you guys earlier, like I do two different things. I either have my legs really wide or I have one wide or two wides, and I'll have them stretched out as far as I can so that it's invading her private space. I want to take her space, which is something that we're talking about later, okay? I'll get into it. But I have my testicles on display facing her. My penis is there facing her. I'm giving off that energy. I'm saying, look, I'm open to you, which again is something we'll get to later, open and closed body language. But that's me just displaying that to her. It's here. My legs are open. I like you. I'm confident. I'm showing you that. There's a clear path to get to it. I'm not putting like a bag in the way or, you know, like, let's say I've got a rucksack. I've just come from the gym. I'm not putting it on my lap, or I'm not, you know, putting it in front of my legs and defending myself and like, or like, sitting with it like that in front of me. That's what you'll see a lot of females do, okay? And a lot of males in this generation. I'm open. Come and get these nuts. And as a connector to this, guys, we've got arms wide, okay? Now, this is something that I'll touch on. I might do it as a pair here because I think this might be easier, but it does slightly depend on the chair, okay? And that was going to be its own section type of chair, but look, we're just going to blend it into one. We're going to do this on the fly, so arms wide. Now, in this chair, it's quite a difficult chair, to be honest. So if I were to sit with my arms wide, it's almost like I'm grabbing this chair because this chair is quite inwards. It's quite tough to do. Ideally, I want to be out here, okay? Now, if I'm at a restaurant or a cafe or whatnot, do you know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to use the props around me. I've done this a million times. You'll see footage of me doing this. I will grab another chair that's not being used. I will put it here, and I will put my arm around it. I am now taking up two chairs. I am monotonizing space. I'm saying that's mine, this is mine, this table's mine. If there's no chairs available, you'll see me do this in my videos on YouTube. I'll put one hand there and one hand there, and I'll spread. I don't know if you can see right now on the camera, but basically I'm going full stretch on this table, and my arms are wide, my legs are wide, I'm sat open body language, chest is out, testicles being displayed to the world. Here I am. It's all of me. I'm not trying to be vulnerable. I'm not trying to defend anything. Look how much space I'm taking up. I'm literally taking up this entire table, this entire space here. I'm taking up the entire chair. I'm sat back, I'm upright. I'm taking up so much space. I'm making myself look massive. It makes a giant difference, guys, okay? If I were to be sat on a park bench, for example, I would sit in the middle of that park bench. I would put one hand like that and the other hand like that. And I would sit in the same manner again. And I would sit with my head high and I'd be looking around at the world. Now, you can't be a dick. If an old lady comes along and she's like, oh, can I take a seat, please, sir? Let her sit down. Move over to the other side of the bench. Put your hand over there and just kind of have your other hands quite relaxed next to you or just slightly up or whatever. But just try and make yourself as big as possible based on the scenario that you're in without being a pencil. Okay? You don't have to be a dick. You don't have to piss people off. That's not the aim here. You can still be a good human being, but just naturally take up more space. Now, a lot of you guys will remember the Bjorn Ironside video that I made, body language analysis video that I made on YouTube. There was one scene that I really made a meal of. I went into deep detail, and he was sat in one of the old Viking chairs, okay? And the great thing about these Viking chairs is that they're deep. They allow you to sit back very deep. They were made purpose-built to make you look good and big and wide and whatever, to make the king look like a superstar. And the armrests are like here. And you're able to like really stretch out and look as wide as possible with your hands just drooping over the side, which just makes you look carefree, makes you look enormous, makes you look very relaxed, makes you look huge. There's an exact video on the YouTube, you should go and check it out, of Bjorn Ironside doing that exact pose, okay? So there's certain chairs that you can sit in which make you look incredible. So there is a difference, but you've got to adapt to the chair that you're sitting in, okay? Like if you're sat on a sofa, you can put your arms wide again. You could be sat there with a girl with your legs wide. All of these things matter, okay? You could be in a club and they've got leather sofas. Go and spread yourself out. You know, you might have a drink in one hand. Let's say you got a drink here. You're doing what I told you guys earlier, where you're keeping it low away from the body. It could be on your knee. That's a very good strong posture, where you'll balance it on your knee, showing how large you are, spreading out your body. And the other arm is like that. And you're leant back and you're wide and your legs are wide and you're showing your testicles to the whole room. Chin up in the air, you're holding the drink or whatnot. You know, it could be to the side next to you, it could be, but it just can't be here. You can't be like that. You can take a sip and then slowly you can put it down to the side onto your knee. You need to be taking up space, okay? So that's a massive, massive important step when it comes to sitting in your body language, okay, guys? The next thing is to sit upright. Gym posture is massive for this, and I'll tell you why. Now, this chair at the moment is currently leaning back, so it's not ideal, okay? And you can have certain chairs where you lean back and you look comfortable, like I said, like that earlier. But in a lot of chairs, they're going to have a solid back. So you almost need to be sat upright like this, okay? Presenting like your kind of best self to the world. But leaning back like this isn't the worst scenario either, okay? But having like a strong upright posture is going to suit most environments and most chairs. Now, here's why you need to go to the gym, because you're going to have certain park benches that don't have a back. You're going to have certain walls that you've sat on that don't have a back. Okay, so what you're going to need to do is go to the gym, strengthen your back, strengthen your posture. You're going to be enduring a lot of pain in the early days. I remember early on in body language, it sounds strange, I would sit on a park bench or a wall or something, and I would try and like sit up and look good. Or at the gym, when you're sat on a bench, these things matter. There's beautiful women at the gym everywhere. You're sat on a bench at the gym waiting to do your next set, you know, and your back is aching because you're sat up all day and you're like, God, I'm not used to this. I'm usually a sloucher. I usually sit like this and just relax and it feels really nice and good, but you got that tech neck and your whole body is drooping down. So improve your posture at the gym. Be conscious of the way you're sitting, and over time you'll build up that strength. And now I'm in a position where I can sit kind of like this in like a proud manner for like 2, 3, 4 hours before any sort of pain kicks in. I can be stood in like an upright posture with my legs wide, and I can just stand locked like that in that solid position in a nightclub or a bar or whatever for like 30 minutes. You don't want to stand for too long, obviously, but for like 30 minutes I can just stand there, just have a conversation with somebody and just be holding a strong pose. That's the gym. That's why it's so essential for you to do, okay, guys? And keep practicing that posture all the time. It'll come over time. It will get easier and easier. Now, the next thing I want to explain is very important, is standing to sitting and sitting to standing, which sounds very strange, but it's almost like a combination of the two that we've covered already, okay? So in order to sit in a chair, well, you're going to have to probably start in a standing position and move to a sit, okay? And then when you're sitting in a chair, at some point you're going to have to leave that chair. You're probably going to have to stand up. So these connecting moments are essential to who you're framed to be in general. Now, the best thing you can do is slowness of movement. I'll give you a great example, okay? Let's say I was sat in a chair like this. I was trying to be the biggest alpha male in the room. I'm trying to be relaxed. I'm thinking, what did Chris say? Okay, what did the course tell me to do? I'm going to relax and stretch out. And then your barber goes, hey, Chris, you're next. And you're like, yeah, okay. And you jump up. That's not good. You can't be doing that, okay? And this is what I showed you guys in the Bjorn Ironside video. And you'll see more of this in the footage that are connected to this. But you need to be doing this in a slow manner, in the correct way too. So for example, putting your hands on the armrest and getting up slowly. You know, that's making yourself wide. It's a very masculine posture where you're pushing down on something. Your arms are wide and you're getting up very slowly. I'll show you examples of it, like I said. Or you can put your hands on your knees and stand up very slowly. I think I've shown this in the Bjorn Ironside video. When you're sitting down, don't just drop and lazily slump into your chair. It gives off the wrong impression. It just makes you look like some lazy bum who lacks energy, who's too old or whatever, or just has no real like vigor and structure for life. So best thing you can do, put your arms wide, lower yourself into that chair slowly and straight into that sit back wide posture. These two transitions make all the difference. And like I said, the best thing you can do is be unreactionary. You can't have somebody being, hey Chris, yeah, and you're up. You know, what do you want? What do you want? Okay, like that's panic stations. You know, you can't just like quickly jump into a chair. Everything has to be a slow transition. So rock forward, hands there, get up slowly. Like I said, I'll show you examples. It'll all be a lot clearer when you can actually see me doing it. I promise you guys, it makes all the difference, okay? So your sitting posture is essential, but the transitions between the two can ruin the entire image. Let's say there's a woman watching you when you're sitting. Oh, he looks really good. Then somebody's just like, hey buddy, you just got to move because it's going to rain in a minute. Can you come inside? You're at a restaurant or whatever. Can you guys just move inside? And you go from Bjorn Ironside, Ragnar Lothbrok, Tommy Shelby, most confident man in the world, to suddenly going, yeah, sure, I'll do what you say, sir. It just, do you see what I mean? Everything needs to be congruent. So you need to be concerned with everything. The sitting, the standing, the transitions between the two, all makes a difference. Okay, guys? Now the next one and the final one is don't fidget. I see this everywhere. This is one of my pet hates. I hate seeing men fidget when they're stood still, when they're stood kind of like in public, but I also hate it when they're sat. I can't deal with it. Why is it in this generation we've got so many young men that cannot just simply just be at peace with themselves? Do you know how attractive that is to women, guys? Honest to God, I've had so many women say to me, I like you because you're calm. You just don't really move a lot. You just sit, you just relax. You're just like calm to be around. I like it. It's very gorilla-like. Do you know what I mean? Like the alpha male and the gorilla, the big silverback. That fucker doesn't move until he needs to. He will just sit there stretched out, relaxing. A lot of these kids nowadays, they're like scratching, itching. Their foot's going like thumper, up and down. They're like shuffling their feet around. And the worst of all is this is what I mean about the sit to the stand to sit posture. Okay? Go from a stand to a sit and stay there. Sometimes you need to move for something, okay? Sometimes you need to straighten out. That's okay, guys. Get your posture right as soon as you get somewhere. So when you get to a certain environment and you're about to sit down, this is what I said. Get there, plant your ass on your back in the back of that seat, get comfortable, stretch out, maintain. Why are you moving any more than that? Why are you moving any more than that? I was on a date the other day and I was just holding eye contact the whole time and she had her cleavage out. And she was like, you're so composed. And I just wasn't moving. I had my legs stretched out, wide, whatever, testicles pointed towards her. She actually said to me, you're really composed. You've held strong eye contact the whole time, stretched out, relaxed. She was like, it's really calming to be with you. Guys, it makes all the difference. A lot of people think, oh, I'm doing nothing. How can this be attractive? It makes all the difference, okay? So these guys can, like, they're in their chair and they'll shuffle. They'll be like this. They're having a chat with somebody and then they're like, oh, I'm not comfortable. And they're swapping around like that. They're folding their legs, sitting up, sitting back. The fuck is that about? Just relax. Just get in a set position. Be comfortable with your environment and just taking all the surroundings around you. Okay, guys? So that's sitting posture wrapped up. Next up, guys, we're going to be talking about another fundamental of body language, and it is walking. Now, admittedly, I would say that walking is probably my weakest point, okay? It's something that I have got better at, but it's something that I desperately need to work on. You know, I obviously know what I'm doing, but I feel like out of everything, compared to all the other things I do, it is my weak point. The way that I made it better, because obviously I had the knowledge before, but the way I made it better, which is why I thought it wasn't going well for me, is getting my legs stronger. Okay, getting in the gym, getting my legs stronger, especially working on my glutes. Because if you've got these large, strong muscles behind you pushing you forward, it's very easy to take the proper strides. It's very easy to look strong, to have that solid base as you're walking forward, etc. That always helps. Something that's worth mentioning, which a lot of you won't be familiar with if you live in like modern, beautiful cities, is I grew up in like the countryside and everything's hilly. It's a shit show because you're always walking uphill, downhill. It's very hard to look good. So if you live in one of these places, look, guys, you're just gonna have to take it on the chin. Okay, you can't necessarily look good when you're walking up a hill, sweating, blowing out of your ass, tired as fuck. It's just really, really difficult. So that is one thing. That's a little caveat I thought I'd throw in there just in case that question pops up and someone says, how do I look good walking downhill, uphill? You're just going to look like an idiot. It's very hard to look good, okay, guys? So, you know, the benefit is if you live in I'm not saying to move, but if you're living somewhere like a New York and it's flat and you're just walking through the streets, look, it's fantastic. You can make yourself look great. I've done that. When I moved to London, I was like, this is excellent. Everything's flat. I can look fantastic. I'm not sweating everywhere I go. Makes the world a difference, okay? So before somebody asks, I wanted to throw that out there. But walking is something I'm improving all the time. It's not my strongest point, but, you know, with something that, again, I can work on as well, guys. So the first thing is longer strides. Now, the reason longer strides works is because of height. We all know people like tall people. Tall people get respect. Women like tall people. Like, it's just, height is a massive differential. Now, a sign of height is longer strides, long legs. You know, it makes such a difference. We all see a woman who's in heels striding down the road. She draws an eye. Long legs, you know, the way she's pottering about with those long legs, you know, it's really attractive to our eye. As a man taking those longer strides, that doesn't mean you should do the fucking long jump. It doesn't mean you should overcompensate. But bringing us on to the next point, and I'll combine these two together, is heel to toe. Okay, so a lot of people will almost like shuffle along. If you ever see a woman walking, she'll shuffle her feet like that, very quick little steps. As a man, what you want to do is you want to take a longer stride, but without, you know, taking the piss and like trying to stretch. It has to still be natural and organic. You can't make your legs longer, do you know what I mean? But you can maximize your own stride length. So as you stride, it needs to be heel first and then the toe comes down. Heel first and then the toe comes down. That will maximize your stride length. If you just go straight down with the toe, it's straight flat. If you go heel first and then toe, it's going to expand that stride length. It's going to make you kind of aim as far as you can possibly without, like I said, taking the piss, okay, guys? Now, one thing I want to mention too is in terms of your walk. Now, I've always thought it suits me more to walk with my legs going outwards in that kind of 45-degree angle, more of like an aggressive bulldog type shuffle where one leg goes there, one leg goes there, very much more like a Tom Hardy type of walk. That suits me. There's no one fits all, okay? There's another kind of walk that you can do. You might see a guy who's like 6'4", maybe skinny, maybe he's in like a nice work suit, and you'll see that guy taking long strides, walking quite upright. His legs aren't exactly going outwards like a kind of GTA shuffle. His legs are more going like I said, heel, toe, long stride. And where my legs might be going out at this sort of angle, there to there, he's very much doing that. It's more feminine in its mannerisms, but at the same time, it's a long stride length. He's got that height. It's horses for courses. It's whatever suits you best. I love putting some boots on in winter and a big coat and strutting around with my legs going bang, 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 like out to the side, where I've got more of a solid structure with bigger legs and those wider strides going right to left, right to left, right to left. It's more of a sway, more of a shuffle. You see somebody like an Andrew Tate, he's very upright. His strides are very, you know, straightforward. Whereas you see somebody like Tristan, he sways a lot more. There's a big difference in the way that certain men walk. But both of those ways work. So you almost have to find what works for you. Do you feel comfortable? Is it a masculine way to walk? You know, are you going heel to toe rather than toe down first, which doesn't look too good? Okay, and are you maximizing your stride length? Okay, guys, that's kind of the first part. Secondly, head up and parallel to the ground. So the same as when you're sitting and standing, When you're walking, again, I'm going to combine two together here, otherwise it won't make sense if I do them separately. You need to also look ahead with purpose. Look straight ahead. So head like that with the chin parallel to the ground as you're walking. Look straight ahead, not like some lunatic, but know where you're going. Have a purpose. I'm heading in that direction. What you do not want to be doing, guys, is be reactionary, like I've said in every other part of this course, where you're walking along the road, you're doing your heel toe stride length, you're feeling confident, you're looking good, and a dog barks, obviously it's right next to you, you're going to be a little bit scared. Dog barks in the background, plank of wood hits another plank of wood from a building site, a car horn goes off, and you're like this, panicking, jumping, reactionary, always panicking about what's going on around you. Know where your head is, be focused on your direction. And this is another thing you can do. If you do have height on your side as a man, your head is probably going to be over the top of everyone else's head. So you're going to have these women in front of you, other guys, whatever. You can almost look above and beyond everybody into the distance. This is where I'm headed. This is where my purpose is. I'm going to take the heel to toe, long strides. This is where I'm going. It works wonders, right? And some people might be saying, for example, let's use women as an example. But how am I ever going to catch eye contact with these women? Look, you will do it organically. You'll be walking along like that, for example. You'll see her just slightly in that 2-3 degree angle just there. You'll make eye contact, maybe you have a conversation, whatnot. Secondly, it's the marathon mindset. You might live in an environment where you're seeing that same woman 3-4 times per week. Okay, you might be walking into a gym, you might be walking past an office, she spots you, go to work at the same time, she might spot you now and again. If you're walking with purpose, knowing where you're going, and she notices you a few times and finds you attractive, that one day it might spark up a conversation, and she's been watching you for weeks. It's been making a difference. Like, how many girls do you see a guy walk past every day and she's like, here's my husband. He doesn't even know who she is, but she's just like, I love the way that guy walks. I love his mannerisms. He just looks so purposeful. Like, we've all had it when you've gone into certain establishments and, or you've seen somebody a few times every single day and they give you like a cheeky smile. And then somebody tells you eventually, oh, she really likes you. You've never even said a word to her. It's just the way that you've moved, the way that you've given off a certain energy, a certain aura, the way that your body language has portrayed you to be a certain individual. A walk, having purpose, looking straight ahead can really help with that, okay? Now, here's where I differ to a lot of people in the industry, and we will go on to this in a second, like I said, with speed of movement. A lot of people in the industry say you should move quickly. You should look straight ahead with purpose, and you should walk quickly, okay? I know where I'm headed. I'm going on in my life. I just think that gives off the wrong energy. In my opinion, you should look straight ahead, have your purpose, be focused on it, know where you're headed, long strides, heel to toe, but you should move slowly. Which brings me on to my next point, which is walk like you're in treacle. Now, this doesn't mean take the piss and walk in slow motion, but just slow everything down. Anywhere you're going, okay, just relax. Like, how many times have we seen a woman walking through a busy environment? I've seen this a million times. Like, kind of arms folded, or like her sleeves are rolled up to the point where they're covering her hands and she's kind of like looks nervous. And she's doing quick steps. They move like so quickly. It's like one step, one step, one step, one step. You always see that. Whereas as a calm, collected man, yeah, you might have your purpose. You might be looking into the direction you're going. You are actually headed somewhere, but you need to slow it all down. And here's why I think slowing it all down really helps. When you're rushing, it's almost like I'm late. I have a boss. I don't want to upset this person. I don't think that gives off a good vibe. I like to I'll move at my own pace. I know where I'm headed. I'm going to this venue. But I'm going to move at my own pace because I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. I'm on my own time. I'm the boss. And also, I'm not late. I'm never late. That sort of vibe, that's what it gives off. So in my opinion, as a collective, that is the correct and the best way to walk. Right, guys, the next section is going to be speed and reacting. So we've spoken about this in the other sections before this because it is such a big overlap into everything else that you do in body language. But I believe that it needed its own section. I believe that we needed to dig into it deeper. So that's exactly what we're going to do now. And the first thing we're going to focus on is the world around you. So what I mean by the world around you, and I did mention it earlier, I did touch on it, is when you're walking down the street and you hear a dog bark or something and you quickly swivel your head. You're panicked, you're nervous. This is what a prey animal does. What was that noise? Everybody run, get for cover. It's not what you want to be doing. Somebody honks a horn in traffic and you jump and you're petrified. It takes years and years and years to become aloof to everything around you, okay? Somebody's shouting and screaming. They're not shouting and screaming at you, because if somebody was coming over to attack you, it was a dangerous situation. a fucking bomb goes off, I want you guys to run, okay? Let's not be stupid. But on an everyday basis, when do you get a life-threatening scenario? When do you get a dangerous scenario? You don't. Everything's, the idea you want to portray is, I've been here before, I've seen it all before, got the t-shirt, when people say that. So that's what you want to give out, where the whole world around you is panicking, looking, twitching, fidgeting, and you're just slowly moving around, you're just getting on with your life, you've got your purpose in front of you, you're not panicking, okay? Now, a great version of that is when a friend or somebody calls your name. So I might be walking along and I might hear, Chris, and if I go like this, ready? So, Chris, and I'm looking around, I'm panicking. That's just like, it's just not going to work too well. Whereas if somebody goes, like I'm walking past and they shout, Chris, and I go, oh, you okay, buddy? Like that, in that kind of like slow motion, it changes the dynamic completely. Like I said earlier, great example, probably the best one. You've been sat at like a barber shop for 20 minutes waiting to get your hair cut. You might be on your phone reading a book or whatever. You might be just sat composed doing what you're doing. And then they just say, hey, Chris, you're up next. Or hey, buddy, you're up next. And you just jump up and you panic. You can't let people have that level of power over you. You need to be in control all the time. You need to move at your own pace. You need to be, the master of your own time. You need to be like, my time is precious. I will move slowly. I will turn, not like some weirdo like in a movie like that. It's just creepy. But you can just turn in your own kind of like speed and just, yeah, hey, buddy, like really aloof and calm to every scenario. Like somebody shouting and screaming and you're just watching and you're just like, what an idiot. And you move on. That aura is so attractive to men, to women, everything. The coolest, the calmest guy is always the most attractive. Everybody is drawn to that individual. It makes a major difference, guys, okay? So the next thing, like I said, is follower or leader. So you might be in a group of friends, and one of your friends, for example, this is what I mean by reacting to things and the speed at which you do it. Like I said, they can shout your name, they can do certain things, they can wrap an arm around you and you quickly like adjust and kind of, you're in shock, do you know what I mean? Fight or flight mode, where they like grab you, put an arm around you, somebody comes up behind you, grabs you, and you're like almost panicking. Oh, you scared me a little there. That's not good. And when somebody, for example, is like the leader of the group and they're saying, right, okay, guys, let's go this way. Like we've all seen the scenario where somebody says, oh, I think it's this way. You're all following that individual and then they stop and go, oh, no, actually it's down here. And you're walking behind like some little sheep and you're going, okay, it's this way. No, actually it's the other way. And you stop quickly. Those people that almost like walk into their friend and they're like, oh, and they like swivel around. You need to just be in a composed manner where you just know where you're walking. You're like, it's this way. You want to give yourself some space. You don't want to be like one step behind somebody else, trotting behind your friends like this. Yeah, okay. Oh, stop. Yeah, sorry, mate. Where are we going now? And then you walk back behind him. He's walking off that way and you're trotting behind. That's like reacting the wrong way, like some fucking beta male pussy that doesn't understand social dynamics and having your own kind of opinions and decisions where you're saying, no, I think it's that way. I'm going to take the lead. I'm going to take the direction. This is all an overlap in reacting to the people around you, okay? So the next one is catch yourself and slow down. I do this every morning. I talked about this in the mindset section, but sometimes the world gets away from you. You're like, I'm late. I need to get to this place, whatever. Look, if you're going to be late for work, don't get fired. If you need to run, if you need to move, go and do it, guys, okay? But here's the trick. Don't be late, right? It's an easy solution. But this is what a lot of people will do, and I've been in this scenario where you're walking along, you're going somewhere. You're not late, you're on time, but you're walking a little bit quicker than you normally would. And you just catch yourself. You stop yourself in the moment, and you go, what am I doing? Why is my heart rate up? I'm just walking somewhere. Why am I panicking? I'm going to meet somebody and I'm fretting. I'm moving a little bit quicker. I'm shuffling. I'm moving around people. It's like, relax, slow down, take a deep breath. Just be calm about it. Start moving at your own pace. Catch yourself in the moment, okay? If you notice that you've just like chucked yourself into a seat, you're like shuffling around or whatever, just take a deep breath and compose yourself. I'll never forget, best example I could use. I was on a night out. It was, I think I was just turning 21. I'd just been through a breakup and I was fretting. I was all over the shop. There were beautiful women everywhere. I was out with two of my friends. We were on a like night out, like a student night. And I was looking around the place and I was kind of like fretting, moving quickly, whatever. The night wasn't going that well. I was just like kind of not relaxed. And I kind of like did what they do in the movies, remember your training. And I just kind of sat there and I just thought, okay, deploy some decent body language. So I opened myself up. I slowed it all down. I slowed my mind down. I slowed my body down. I spread myself out. I started grabbing my drink, taking it slowly, putting it down slowly. Didn't really see much of a change in the women around me. I just thought, hey, the night's just going as normal. I'm not really seeing anything different here. We went to another venue, and because it was a student night, a lot of the people were going to the same place. As the girls had a few more drinks and they got a little bit more drunk, it was, hey, I really like you. You're really attractive. Now, I can guarantee if I was fretting around doing that kind of beta male body language, the same thing wouldn't have happened. I became aloof to everything. I stopped reacting to things around me. I became very chilled, and I just calmed everything down. And the amount of female attention I got was some of the highest I've ever had in my life. It was crazy. I was just, at that time in my life, I mean, it was some of the highest I've ever had. And it was basically take your pick of any woman that you want around here. It just gave off a certain energy. It just changed who I was that night. And as I say to you, like, I didn't see the women watching me. I didn't see an immediate change at that time. I didn't see them go, hey, look at his body language while I was doing it. Women are always watching. It's the women you don't see that are watching you. Okay, if she's in your eyesight here, the woman over there has just seen you. The woman over there has just seen you. The girl behind the bar who's just come in, to do a shift, she's just been watching you for like 5 minutes while she's making drinks. You didn't even know that she turned up and arrived. There's a girl behind you that's been watching you. There's a girl over there with a boyfriend that you think is happy with her boyfriend. She's been watching you. And then next time you see her, 10 days later, she's like, oh, I really find you attractive. You don't know how this shit is going to unfold, okay, guys? So slow everything down, catch yourself in the moment. Best thing you can do is do it in the morning before you leave the door. It's the best way. Slow everything down. You're leaving work, slow everything down. You've got to change that mindset, okay? You're in work, you're thrashing about, you've got to do what the boss says. When you leave, just switch that brain. Just change it. Just say to yourself, okay, relax. Take that extra length in stride. Slow everything down. Do everything at a much slower pace. Stop reacting to things. Know that things are going to go on around you. The world's crazy. Things are going to beep, make noises. Like you're in London, you've got a horn here, a dog here, somebody shouting, somebody's having a fucking argument with someone else. Somebody just slams a door next to you, comes out of the side roads. Like, just be very, very relaxed, which actually brings me on to the next point here, which is seeing a pretty woman, okay? And this is the one thing that I always call guys out on. I see this so often. You might spot a beautiful woman in the distance. As you're walking towards her, you're trying to act all calm and collective, and you're like, I'm not going to look at her. I'm going to be really relaxed. I'm going to look sexy and whatnot. That is no kind of proof of you being a top-level man, of being an outlier male. The true sign of an outlier male is that you walk around a corner completely blind. As you come around that corner, you're kind of like looking at your phone or something, whatever, you just check your messages. You look up, perfect 10 is in front of you. Most guys will do this. Like that. Eyebrows will shoot up in the air, mouth will open up, they'll be like this. Like that, kind of gawping at her, and then they'll stop themselves. Okay? And they're just kind of like eyes wide, staring. She's already turned off. She's already looking. She's just like, he's too reactionary. He's never seen women like me before. Whereas once you get it in your head, once you train, because this is something you can't really fake, because it's going to happen when you least expect it. You're going to park your car, you're going to jump out your car, you're going to look right, beautiful woman's looking right at you. Are you going to go like that? Eyebrows high, eyes wide, mouth open, and then quickly stop yourself and be like, yeah, I'm the coolest guy, right? It's too late. She's already realized. So this is something you're going to have to train over time and get used to. I'm in a scenario now where I can just kind of like walk into certain areas, walk around a corner, see a beautiful woman, and it's just like this. Same face. And I'm just holding that eye contact, just staring her down, which is eye contact, which is what we'll get onto later. It's a whole topic in itself. And I'm waiting for her to look away or look down at the floor. As soon as she does, I'm like, I've got her. So I'll go and have a conversation with her. I'll move straight over. It makes the world a difference, okay, guys? If you're not one of those guys who's come around the corner and just, eyebrows wide, eyebrows up, sorry, eyes wide, mouth open. Oh my God, she's so gorgeous. Oh, compose yourself. It's too late. You fucked up, okay? So that's something that I want you guys to be aware of. That's something that's only specific to beautiful women. If you saw somebody like fucking climbing a building, or you saw a lion on the street, yeah, you might react strangely. But with women, they're the ones that you want to be sleeping with. They're the ones that you want to give a good impression to. So if you walk into a venue and you spot a beautiful woman and you like give this shocked look on your face, and you're all fucking fidgety and touching your neck and whatever, it's just shutting you down immediately at the start of the night, So it's like these sort of things, reaction, the speed of movement, they make all the difference. And the final point I want to make on this is transitions. So I touched on it earlier, when you're standing to sitting, when you're sitting to standing, when you are, for example, getting out of a car, when you're walking and then stopping and looking at something and then you start walking again, you know, all these scenarios where you're going from like one kind of scenario to another, or when you're going from one scene to another, or when you're going from one kind of position to another. You have to do these things seamlessly. They have to knit together. It can't be sit down, stand up, you know, walking along, stop immediately, go back the other way. So it's just fidgety, fucking rabbit-like behavior. Just slow everything down and do everything in your own time and your own pace, okay? Stop reacting to everything. Stop spinning your head around like a prey animal. This is a whole thing, guys, okay? And this is why reaction and speed is so important, because it overlaps into every other category. So it's like if you took the reaction stuff and the speed stuff out of your skill set in body language, but you did everything else, none of it would work. It is almost like the fuel, the catalyst that lets everything else happen. Just slow everything down. Stop being so reactionary. Become aloof to the world around you. It makes all the difference, guys. Okay, guys, next we're going to move on to tonality, which is it's strange. When people say tonality is body language, it's a weird thing to say, because it's like, well, I'm just using my voice. How am I moving around, etc. I really learned about this when I was in sales, when they say 93% of a phone call is tonality. So basically, it doesn't really matter what you're saying, it's the way you say it. The Wolf of Wall Street was a big promoter of this. He was very good at it. His tonality is fantastic. You get people like Chael Sonnen, Conor McGregor. They're just addictive to listen to. They just talk in a certain way. Maybe one of the best ever is Barack Obama. He's unbelievable at it. You know, it's so much so that people would take the mick out of his voice because it was so distinguished. Okay, you get storytellers like Morgan Freeman. There's just certain people you can really listen to. And it makes a difference, okay, guys? So 2 kind of mentality points I want to address before we begin. Number 1, believe that people want to hear you. That's probably the toughest thing for a lot of young guys, okay? They'll go to say something, they don't quite believe it. They don't have that conviction in their voice, and they'll have a voice break and they'll go, just as they're saying it, because they don't truly believe in what they're saying. They're reluctant to speak up. They have a certain level of volume as well, which is, it comes from a fear mindset. So you walk into a room, somebody says like behind a till, can I help you? And they're comfortable, it's their environment. They've been there all day, and like somebody will go, oh yeah, sure. Can I have a fuck all that shit. Be like, yep, can I have a march straight up? Be louder than they are. You know, be the most powerful individual in a room. People want to hear you. People want to hear what you've got to say. I always had that bred into me by my mum and dad when I was younger. I've never had that taken away from me. I always believe my input is valid, whatever room I'm in. And if you believe that and you speak with conviction, that's going to help, guys. People are going to stop and listen to you. Even if what you say is dog shit, people are still going to be like, hey, he was passionate about saying it. Now, the second thing that I want to mention is how to put power into your voice, okay? There's probably 2 very easy ways to do this as a man, okay? The mentality thing that we've just ticked, but 2 very easy ways to do this as a man. Stop masturbating, watching porn, whatever. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if there's no science on this. I don't care if the world does not back this up. It takes away from your voice. You do not speak the same. You do not have the same power and resonance in your voice. Now, I've seen before people say stuff like, oh, in terms of tonality, you need strong resonance. It's like, look, you can't just be George Clooney. You can't be Morgan Freeman. You can't just change your voice, okay? But 2 things that I've noticed that have worked is stop watching porn and masturbating. Your voice just changes. It undoubtedly gets deeper. It undoubtedly gets stronger. Something just happens. It's a reaction from being sexless or something. Your voice just gets massively stronger. Like I said, it's a reaction from your body to maybe entice a mate. It makes perfect sense. I don't think there's any science on it. I don't give a fuck. It works. Everybody who's done it has said the same thing. Now, the second thing is to raise your testosterone levels. If you can go to the gym, lift heavy, do all the things I say about testosterone and how to raise your testosterone around the household using certain products and whatnot, and then not using other products, certain way of lifestyle, getting a good 8 hours of sleep per night, that will really strengthen your voice, okay, guys? That will add some serious power, some oomph when you talk. There's some easy steps that you can take to begin with, okay? Now, the next point we're going to move on to, and this is kind of the first of the actual skill set, not just mindset or practices that you can do, is pacing. Barack Obama is the best I've ever seen at this. Now, there's a time and a place to talk a little bit quicker. There's a time and a place to slow it all down, then speed it all up and make another point. That's a great trick that we used to do in sales. We used to, entice somebody with a certain point and then slow it all down. And then I'd whisper to the customer because they'd lean closer to the phone. And then I'd say, sound fair, so-and-so? And say their name in a real strong way. There's just certain times to just change that pacing. It just makes a real difference. But as a standard kind of practice, don't talk too quickly, guys. What they've proven with people who talk too quickly is they're nervous. And that's a basic point. Of course, you can figure that out for yourself. Of course, they're nervous. But what I mean is they're nervous that people aren't going to listen. They're nervous that they're not going to be heard. They're nervous that if they don't say their words in the next 20 seconds and get it out quickly, their time slot is coming to an end. A very confident, high-level man knows that nobody is going to interrupt him, and they wouldn't dare. So he speaks slowly. He pronounces his words. He stops and thinks before he says his next thing. What I just did there was an example, okay? I don't usually speak like that, but that's how you would speak. You would stop and you would say, that's how I'm going to do it. You see that pause that I use there, guys? I wasn't worried about space filling and trying to come up with something else and whatnot. That is such a great way to speak. And politicians will do this all the time. Watch any speech on the news, because anybody who is put in a position where they have to give a high level speech, or they have to, go in front of the camera for a crime that's been committed, and the police commissioner comes out and they have to address a massive public and a bunch of cameras, after a court date or something like that. They've all been media trained. They all know that you have to make big, strong, slow statements like this, and then you stop and you move on, and your pacing is very rhythmic. Do you see what I mean, guys? It makes the world of difference. And like I said, you can use it in sales. You can go quicker, you can go slower, you can bring it up and down. It's a skill. You can play around with it. It's so clever in the way that you can manipulate certain, it sounds terrible, but the way that you can manipulate certain scenarios or to get people to do certain things. On a phone call, like I said, 93% of the phone call is tonality. That's what the person is judging you based on. So if you can talk in a correct manner, you have a superpower. And if you can talk like that in real life to people, you have a superpower. And if at the same time you can hold strong eye contact and you've got a great posture, you're almost an unbelievable rarity that people would never see. You're like a 0.01% man. Just how many other people are doing that? Now, the next thing that we're moving on to, guys, is tone. Now, tone is more of a mindset thing. And I'll give you an example. So you can't change your tone too much. Your voice is kind of embedded in stone. If you're a female, your voice is going to be higher. If you're a man, your voice is going to be deeper. You can put a deeper voice on. I don't necessarily, encourage you to do that because it's quite hard to do that all the time. But I'll give you an example of tone, okay? You could meet somebody for the first time, and this is a massive problem in men, a massive problem. And this has been proven. I've spoken about this on videos before, where men will meet somebody for the first time. Might be a woman, might be a man. It's usually a woman. And they will raise their tone. Hi, how are you? Are you okay? And it's very submissive in its ways. The reason we do this, okay, it's been proven by science, is to say to people, I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. I talk in a high voice. I'm a very nice person. Please don't judge me. That's not what you should be doing. Notice it in your voice next time you meet somebody for the first time. Instead of going, hi, how are you? Are you okay? People go, hi, how are you? Are you okay? And they change their voice. Are you okay? It's very submissive. People do it because they want to be liked. They don't necessarily need to be liked, guys. You need to be respected. That's what you're changing after. That's the difference in tone, okay? I had a girl say to me the other day, you talk in a monotone. Your tone doesn't change. It's basically the same thing. My pacing changes. The words that I use can change. The way that I'm talking can change. But my tone relatively stays on the same path. It's quite calming. It's quite relaxing. And for her to pick up on it, it says a lot, okay? So the next one is submissive versus assertive. And this is going to be designed around the words that you use. So what you don't want to be doing, guys, is saying things almost with a question, which is going to blend to another point in a second. But I'm talking about just the words. So you don't want to say to people, can I do this? Should we go here? Like this is all tonality. If you're talking to a woman, you should say, we're going here. We're going to do this. This is more commands. This is more of a masculine behavior. This is something that says, look, I'm stepping up and I'm taking the lead. It makes a world of difference, and it blends into congruency, which is, again, something that I will connect to later on, guys. And that blends in with the words that you use as well, guys. So, there's certain, for example, when I'm talking to you guys on camera, I'll say stuff like, and the streaming platform is going to be built. This will happen. We will get this done. It's very presidential. Think Donald Trump. We will build that wall. It's the way I kind of speak. I say this will be done, and when this is finished, not if. A lot of people say, oh, if I get this done. It's just wishy-washy. It's not attractive. People don't like that. People like a big, strong leader who just says what they think and believes wholeheartedly in what they're doing. And it could be as far as building a whole streaming platform. It could be as small as, we'll go here and we'll go and have some food. This place is great. Is it though? The woman's like, oh, is it? But is it great? Yeah, it's amazing. I went there the other day. It's fantastic. Let's go. Do you see that conviction? Like, it makes the world of difference. Okay, guys? Something that you guys will be very, very familiar with is ums and ahs and likes. So we all know somebody, usually a 16-year-old girl from the valleys, in like LA. And every single discussion is and ah, well, I think it's like, like. That makes you sound like a moron. You will not get a job interview. You will not be respected by other people. You will look like a wishy-washy beta male who's too submissive on dates. It isn't going to work. Nobody's going to actually be listening to the points you're making. And like I said, you just sound unintelligent. When you can stand up there like a politician, paste your words correctly, say things with conviction, not fill the gaps, be okay with the silence, it's just an absolute game changer. Absolute game changer, guys. So there's certain scenarios. For example, I'll make a YouTube video and I might use ums and ahs because it's an hour-long video and I'm trying to explain a point. It's quite hard to think. In normal day scenario, I can turn it on and off. And in normal day scenarios, when I'm talking to a woman, when I'm trying to go through business negotiations, for example, I will not use ums and ahs. Okay, it's something you can turn on and off. Should you just never do it? Ideally. But it's something you can switch on and off. You can catch yourself in the moment. That's some training for you guys at home. You need to sit there and just as you're about to say or ah or like, just stop. Just don't say anything. Just come and just think of the next words. Be okay with the silence. Something that I found in my own life, and this is another major point, is pronunciation. I went to do a sales job and I was from the countryside in Gloucestershire. And every single word that I would say with an A, for example, I would say grass. And it just sounded very common. And they gave me elocution lessons. They sat me down, tried to teach me the Queen's English. For example, grass, go to bath, and things like that. And I started pronouncing things properly. And now when I meet people, they're like, you're quite posh. You've got quite a posh accent. I don't think I do, but people say that. They never used to say that before. And I noticed when I was doing sales, when I started talking in a certain way, it just changed the game. So instead of being one of these modern guys who mumbles their words and B, all those fucking idiots that try and sound really cool and like use the word fam, fuck all of that. Doesn't help your life at all. Trying to mumble and be really cool, like, well, basically right. You just sound like a fucking moron. It's not going to benefit your life at all. Professional individuals that you actually want to deal with aren't going to treat you with respect. The high-level women that you actually want to sleep with are going to think you're some scumbag moron. Do not speak like that. Pronounce your words properly. Use high-level elocution. Like I said, pronounce your words, guys. There's nothing wrong with pronouncing a word, pronouncing it properly. As you get older, it will matter massively. And the final point, guys, on tonality, and something that I've already mentioned in here, but it needs to be mentioned again, is being okay with silence. And I used an example at the start of this course where I went quiet for a little bit, looked at the camera, and then started speaking again. You might remember that. I did this with a woman the other day on a phone call. I shut up for like 10 seconds. And I waited and I waited and I waited. And then are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. Oh, okay, I just thought you right? And then eventually I told her, I was like, I'm just seeing how you handle silence. Even though she knew it, she would wait 20 seconds, I would stay quiet, and it was like a game of chicken, and she would speak first. That's just like a submissive and a masculine kind of game that I play. And if they speak first, it's like, I won that battle. I'm okay with the silence. I'm calmer than you. I'm more aloof. I don't give a shit. Just really hard to do is talk to somebody in person and do it. So you're just looking at them, making eye contact, having a conversation, you make a point, and then some people would do this. They go, yeah, nice. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Whew, yeah. 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 And it's like, just make a point and then go. And just wait for them to talk. Unless you have something to say. You don't sit there in silence for no reason. But if you've got nothing to say, like, why would you talk? And what you'll find is the person you're talking to, woman, man, whatever, they will talk first. And it just changes the game. It changes the dynamic. They have more respect for you. They put you in the position of the leader, the alpha male out of the two of you. Makes a world of difference. And it's just such a small, little, slight change that you can make. And you're doing it every single day. You're doing it in business interactions, on dates. You're doing it when you're just talking to friends. And you will find that you will climb that social dynamic. People will like you and they won't know why. And it comes from respect. That's what it comes from. They might be like, this guy's kind of a dickhead, but I'm just kind of glued to him. I don't know what it is. He kind of scares me, but I quite like him. Especially women. But your eye contact's really intense. Like, you do, like, why are you silent? Why are you not saying anything? You're really intense. And they have to say it. They have to voice their emotions. They have to tell you how they're feeling. They're feeling awkward or whatever, so they're having to bring it up. But the awkwardness that they're feeling is sexual tension. And I'm telling you that from experience. You just hold eye contact. You don't say a word. You just stare at a woman. And you're like, I haven't even done anything. And an hour later, both of you are fucking. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is mental. How the hell did that even happen? Or you stare at her lips for like 5 seconds, then look back up at her eyes. Oh, and now we're kissing. How did that happen? Whoops. Like, I told you, it's manipulative if you don't use it in the right way. But this shit really works. And people are scared of silence, guys. So don't be afraid to be scared of silence. Embrace it. Don't fill it with an or an R or a like or a so or okay, yeah. Just sit there quietly. Like, what's the problem? I don't see why that's so scary. Okay, guys, next we're moving on to a very important chapter, which is eye contact. And eye contact is a strange one because there's a lot to discuss, but fundamentally, it's just one thing. You're just holding eye contact. You're just simply looking at somebody in a certain way. And it's not anything complex. Like I said to you before, it's very mentality based. There's a few little caveats that we'll run through on this, but it's very mentality based. And you don't have to overcomplicate it. Like, you're not doing tricks with your eyes. You're not sitting in a certain way with your eyes. Do you know what I mean? It's just eyes looking at somebody else. It's very simplistic, but it gets blown out of proportion. And 90% of eye contact is in here. Oh, she's nervous. I should probably stop. Or that guy keeps looking at the floor and scratching. Like, I'm making him feel intimidated. I should probably stop. Or, for example, girls will say to you, "Oh, like, stop! You're really intense. Like, I'm nervous. Whatever. You've got to keep doing it. Those are the moments that make the difference. You know." And I've said to you guys before, are you okay with being the king? Are you okay with being the alpha in the room? If you're looking at a guy in the eyes and you can see he's crumbling and he's looking at the floor and he's scratching and he's looking awkward and he doesn't know what to do, you've got to embrace that. You've got to be that character. You've got to be that individual. If you then match his body language or turn the intensity down or whatnot, I mean, you're just giving him a pass. Do you know what I mean? You've got to embrace it and be like, I'm that individual that can handle all of this. So first thing we're going to look at is very, very simple, guys. It's just locking eyes. It's a very simple point, and there's not much I can really say on it. But you just need to simply be okay and be confident enough to just catch somebody and just lock eyes with them. And then, like I said in earlier chapters, just hold it. Just keep looking. Just look at that person. Just like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, whatever, just lock eyes with people. Just see what happens. See what comes from it. Okay, and we'll get to a bunch of caveats in a minute, but that is the simplicity of eye contact. You go on a date with a woman, you're sat here, she's sat the other side of the table. Imagine me and you the way we're sat now. And, you know, the menus come over, we all sit down. Yeah, thank you very much. And you just kind of sit like this and you just look at her. And then you just start a conversation. You just start talking. This is like your comfort zone. You're set. This is the zone. You just stay in that zone. There's no, okay, hang on, let me just get reset. Let me just look around the room. Hang on, let me just think what my eye's doing, what she thinks. It's like, no, as soon as you lock those eyes, that's it. You're in that zone. Now you can look away, of course, and we'll get to that in a minute. But like I said, this is your safety zone. This is like I position, as we've said throughout this course, body language, like with the knees, with the feet being planted, the way that you shape your body, being sat in a certain way, bang with the eye contact there. Like that's your safety zone. Just being in that mode there and going, okay, we operate from here. Everything that we do, we come back to this scenario. If you ever get a quiet moment in a conversation with a woman, or you're in a scenario where you're in like a job interview or whatnot, and you've got nothing to say, this is your safety zone. I've had this multiple times with women that I've been on dates with, where you've had a 5-minute conversation and then there's nothing to say. And instead of scratching and shuffling around and saying, yeah, that sounds good, I just go back to that comfort zone. Okay, bang, lock in. Just look at her. I'm like, I've got nothing else to say. And she will always say, what are you staring at? Why do you keep looking at me? Like they just get nervous before you do. That sounds like a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. Okay, guys? So like I said, that's your comfort zone. You lock in. Now, the next point is looking down versus looking to the side. This is essential. Very simple, but essential. When you look down, it's a very submissive female trait. So what you'll find when you get good body language and eye contact is you might, for example, just be sat opposite a woman. You might see a woman on the street and you'll lock eyes with her. And then you'll hold for about 3 seconds. Most women will do this. And that they'll look down and they'll like start looking up at you from this lower position. That is chimp-like behavior. That's what they'll do. And what they're looking for is that submissive thing. I don't know if you've ever seen chimps, but they'll do that to the alpha chimp. They'll put their head down. And what you'll see, this was in Planet of the Apes. It was quite good, but it's real. And they'll do that across the palm of their hand. And it's like a sign of approval. Like, okay, and they'll look down and they'll look for permission. That's exactly what a lot of women will do. A lot of guys will do the same, but that's why it doesn't look good to look down at the floor, be looking at your feet, shuffling around. But you'll find that with women. You'll find that with a lot of men too, but you'll especially find that with women. It's the first thing that I found, is you'll be having a conversation with them and they'll go like that. And they'll look at you for a bit and then they'll go, stop it. And they'll look down and start playing with their hair. You can't be doing that as a man. Okay, so where do you look? Because you can't sit there for the whole time just going like that, just staring at somebody. It'd be kind of weird. So you're just having a conversation. When you need to look away or there's a break or whatever, you just look to the side. Look to the right or the left. Okay, just look off. That's your safety zone. So you're in this area here, okay? You're locked in, you're holding eye contact. You never go below there, okay? Because her boobs are probably there as well. Or if it's a guy, it's like, what are you even looking at? So that's your safety zone. So around about there, and you work within that pane there. Imagine like on a phone when you go into like landscape mode or that ultra wide screen thing, when you kind of like do the panoramic photo when you go from left to right. That's you. You're in that zone there. That's all you can do is just kind of look to the left, to the right. Don't go past that point there, because then it becomes that prey-like behavior where you're looking over your shoulder and you're nervous. You just stay in that zone there. Just imagine it there, okay, guys? Just like a strip. And you'll just focus there and you're looking to the side and whatnot. Because when you look to the side, it makes you look important. You look down, it makes you look worried, but you look to the side, it's like you've lost my attention. And then she's garnering to get it back. It's a wildly important thing. It's very simple, but that is your 101. That's your go-to, okay? Now, the next thing that we're going to look at, guys, is talking whilst holding eye contact. I mentioned this earlier, so I'll be brief on it. But it's very tough to do. Very, very tough to do. When somebody else is talking, it's easy. You're not doing anything. You can just sit and you can look and you can lock in. But when you're talking, to maintain eye contact with somebody is tough, because you have to be confident whilst talking at the same time. You'll find this, guys, one of the hardest things to do, to be able to talk to somebody whilst maintaining eye contact. So I'll just move on from that one quickly. It's very simple. I'll get you guys to practice that one, but it's probably one of the toughest things that you will find. You'll find it easy when somebody else is talking to lock in, but as soon as you become the star of the show, it's very, very difficult to do. And you'll find yourself looking around the room, doing all the scratching things. It's very different when you're the center of attention. That's why in the mentality section near the start, I was telling you guys, you have to become okay with being looked at. You have to be okay with being that alpha male in the room that people look to and people are watching and, wow, look at his body language. They don't think of it as body language. It's just like, wow, look at that guy. He just seems like he's got a presence to him. You walk down the street and people are watching you. You've got to become okay with these sort of things. The next point we're going to move on to is doing other things whilst holding eye contact. My best example of that is having a drink. So you might be sipping your drink at a table. There's no reason to like look down and break the eye contact. Sometimes I do that. And I'll maintain eye contact with my date, whoever I'm talking to. You know, you could be cutting up your food, for example, and you're still maintaining eye contact. You stab your food and you put it in your mouth and you're still maintaining eye contact whilst you're talking. It's very easy to do these sort of things. Now you might have to look down and have a look and whatever. But like when you're taking a sip of your drink, there's no reason to look away. These sort of things, they have like a sexual connotation. If you do that to a man, it could be kind of weird, but these things do have like a sexual connotation where you're doing something else whilst looking at her. Remember, the best example ever of this is Paul Walker in one of the early Fast and Furious movies with Eva Mendes. If you haven't seen the scene, go and watch it. He's driving along in the car. She says something. He looks to the side, maintains eye contact whilst driving at a high speed. And she's panicking. She's like, stop. Now, I'm not saying for you guys to do that. That's highly dangerous. Please don't do that. But it has the same effect, you know, where it's that kind of, I'm holding eye contact with you whilst I'm doing something else. It's kind of seductive. Okay, so that's a very good tip that I would use if I were you guys. The next thing I'm going to talk about, guys, is intensity. Intensity is knowing when it is actually too much. So a lot of the time a girl will say, stop looking at me, but it's not too much. It just isn't. But there will be a point where, for example, like you don't want to be sat at the table like that, wide-eyed, just staring at her. That's weird. If you're like sat back, you're relaxed, your body language is good, and you're actually having a conversation with this woman, then where's the problem? I don't see the problem there. Now, if you could do it once, for example, you could hold, let's say you hold eye contact for like 15 seconds and neither of you have said anything and she's like, God, you're really intense, but she's kind of liking it, she's lapping it up. And then when you're done with it, when she looks down, for example, then you just look to the side and you get on with it. Otherwise, it becomes creepy. What you're trying to do is just win those eye contact battles. You're just trying to, you know, you're just trying to position yourself as the person at the top. You're trying to position yourself as the masculine individual. I'm running this interaction. I'm sitting here, you're slightly below. You're submissive, I'm the dominant one. You've looked down, okay, I can look away now, I've won that. You know, there's a time and a place you can do that. With men, which we'll get onto later in more detail, but with men, you have to be very careful because, let's be honest, guys, I don't think there's many women on planet Earth that are going to come over and beat you up, okay? So that's something we'll get to later. The next point is multiple people. So this is something I suffered with when I was young. First time I started practicing body language and eye contact, I'd see two beautiful women walking as a pair, and I'd go like that. I'd start flicking between the two. I was like, I'm going to look at her for a bit, look at her for a bit. Which one's hotter? Which one's nicer? Which one do I want to do the body language on? And then I was realizing, I was like, I fucked up. I messed up there. I'm looking at too many people at once. So when it comes to women, if you see two of them, pick the first one you lock eyes with, you know, or pick one quick, but the first one you lock eyes with, just hold with that individual. Okay, it's the best method out of the two. And now if you're talking to a group of people, maybe in like a business interaction, maybe it's two men, maybe it's a man and a woman, whatever it might be, and it's business, just hold eye contact with whoever's talking, number one. And then number two, if you're the one talking, just give an even amount of time. So let's say I'm talking now to this individual on the right, and I've made a solid point. I will then move over at the correct pace to the person on the left, and then I will make a second solid point. And then I'll move over to the next person. So it's like a change in pace. Do you see what I mean, guys? If you're in a business interaction, that's the best way to do it. So that's how you should follow it. And to finish off eye contact, this is why I wanted to make its own kind of point to finish. You can get beat up. You can get beat up by the wrong type of guy. So if you're like, I'm this top alpha, all the women are looking down, all the guys are looking down, and then you bump into another guy with strong eye contact and you stare at him for a little while, he might come over and be like, what the fuck are you looking at? Can you back that up? Quite honestly, do you want to back that up? I don't. I'm not in a mindset where I want to fight all the time. So just be like, why would you bother trying to out-alpha the crazy guy? Why would you bother staring at that guy for no reason if you've got nothing to say? So if you lock eyes with some guy who just looks like he's looking for a fight, you don't have to look down and be like, oh, I'm sorry, mate, because that's pussy-like behavior, and that's going to seep into your brain in the future. So let's say I'm minding my own business, I'm sipping a drink, I lock eyes with some crazy guy, I just look off to the side and I just get on with my life. I'm not interested. I don't want it. It's a pain in the ass. Do you know what I mean? Like, who wants to be on a night out fighting or whatever? I'd rather be making strong eye contact with women, enjoying myself, having great conversations. You're too old for that shit now, guys, okay? Okay, guys, in this chapter, we're going to be talking about interacting with others, which is such an important part of body language because, you know, we get very caught up in our own body language and we're thinking, okay, what should I be doing? But what should you be doing to other people? And that includes women, that includes men, that includes being in social situations, in groups, being out in a club, being in an office, etc. How do you operate with other people around you? So we're going to look at interacting with others. The first thing that I want to talk about is entering a room, and this has got two different splits to it. So the typical one that everybody probably wants to know about and has seen in the movies is entering a bar, a club, you know, an establishment that people are in there drinking, everyone's looking to find a partner, you know, those sort of environments where it's very competitive. Now, as I told you guys before, women are always watching. Men watch too, but women are always watching. So if you're going to walk into a venue like a bar, like even a restaurant, you know, on a night out or a club or something of that nature, you're going to have to make a very good first impression. As I've told you guys on the channel multiple times before, you only get roughly 21 seconds to make a first impression. There's not a lot of words you can fit in there. You're not going to be able to walk up to somebody and go, hey, my name's Chris, I'm this age, I go to the gym, look at my body, let me just take my top off quick. Hey, I'm really funny actually, let me just crack 5 jokes in front of you so you know I'm a great person. It's not going to happen, right? They're going to look at you and go, okay, what's he wearing? How is he moving? You know, as soon as you walk through that door, people are noticing you. I told you guys earlier in this course, one of the women that I met recently, I said to her, did you get to the venue that we were in later? Did you arrive late? She was like, no, I was there, you know, near the start of the night. And I was like, well, I didn't see you until the end. I was like, did you see me? She was like, yeah, I saw you the second you walked through the door. Those eyes are on you straight away, so you have to make a good impression, okay? Now, the best thing you can do is, instead of walking into a room and like fucking about with your mates and acting childish, the best thing you can do is walk in. You got to walk in tall, you got to walk in confidently, you know, slapping the bouncer on the chest or something if you know him, giving him a strong handshake, strong eye contact, those sort of things. So you look social. It looks like you know people. And then, you know, the best fail-safe, if you would, is making your way straight to the bar. So it looks like you have a purpose, okay? And when you make your way straight to the bar, it stops you from doing that thing where you walk in and you've got to figure out the venue. You know, you're not a fucking secret agent trying to like flush out the venue and who's here. You're not working security. Otherwise, that makes you look timid, makes you look like prey. What you want to do is walk into a venue, know your purpose, start walking straight there like you've been there before. You don't want to walk in and go like looking around, oh, this is nice, this is nice. Oh, what's that bit? What's that bit? It's just, you're all over the place. Just kind of walk in, know what you're going to do. Maybe you get met at the door by the waitress or whatever. And they're like, can I show you to your table? Just as I taught you guys, plant yourself, strong eye contact, very calm and relaxed. You know, just look her straight in the eye. Yes, please. You know, then, okay, follow me. Yeah, sure. And don't just like rush after her. Like slowly move at your own pace, a couple steps behind. Go and sit at your table. Maybe like pull the seat out for your woman. Let her sit down first. You know, if you're with a group of guys, already be thinking before you're moving to that table, how do I sit in the middle? How am I going to be the focus of that group? You know, all these things need to be going through your head all the time. A lot of it is pre-planning. But like I said, a very safe kind of methodology is walk in, maybe say hi to the bouncers, shake hands, whatnot, or just walk straight in, go straight to the bar, know your purpose, order a drink, get settled in this kind of position. And that, you know, you will be noticed by the people around you. I'm telling you from experience, that first impression when you walk in makes the world of difference. The next thing we're going to be talking about is group interactions. So group interactions with women, for example, if it's a group of women, you've got to be very careful because you can focus on the most beautiful one and then they just know what you're after. I've done that when I was younger. It's, you know, you go and sit next to her, you're looking at her, you're giving all your attention to her. It's not very good. Like, what women like is when you impress her friends. They like it when you can kind of run the show. You're running the group. You're running the conversation. You're involving everybody. You're giving them a good experience. You're, you know, making everybody laugh. So in those scenarios, just very recently, I was talking to 3 women at the same time. The first thing you do is greet the first one that you see, greet the second one, greet the third one. find something quick about one of them. Pick up on something. This is what I do. I call it jump off topics. It might be their shoes, might be a certain color that they're wearing. It might be a certain thing that they do and you comment on it and whatnot, and you pick up on something around them. Bring that straight up. You know, you might want to be with the prettiest one. You might want to talk to her most. There's no reason why you can't talk to the whole group, because here's the thing. If you're respectful and you're holding very good eye contact, if you're positioning yourself in the center of that group and you're kind of involving all of these women and you look like a leader and you're not giving your full attention to the prettiest one, you're just like, you know, talking to her quickly, moving on to the next one. And like I'm doing now, very slowly moving your head and very slowly making these gestures, you know, very controlled. You're not nervous or anything like that. You've got your set position. Believe me, the most beautiful woman in any group will go, okay, he's mine. And she can take you anytime she wants. She'll say to the other friends, I like him. And what are the friends going to do? They're going to step back. They know they can't compete with her. So they're going to very much be like, okay, well, she's taking him. Fair enough, is what it is. So by talking to the whole group, you can impress her, okay? So instead of being like, okay, she's my focus, I need to talk to her, just interact like a good human being. So one of the sexiest things a man can do is impress a girl's friends. So nothing changes. You're still talking to these women like you would if you were talking to one woman. Or like I told you guys earlier, when there were two people there in a business negotiation. You talk to that person, and when you're done making your point, you move on to the next person. Then they start speaking and you hold their eye contact. You're just giving everybody in the group just a fair shout. And as long as you're planted, like I said before, with that strong body language that I've shown you guys before in the previous chapters, and you're not stood with a drink in front of your face, hand in your pocket, and you're kind of nervous and like shuffling around. If you just get yourself set and you're more focused on what they're saying, you know, and stuff like that, then it's really going to help, okay? And you can do certain little things, like you go, does everybody want a drink? I'll go and sort it. Or they're like, oh, we should really sit down. And you're like, yeah, I'll sort that. Like, as the man in the group, there's certain things that you can do. You can just like maybe just tap two of them on the back if they're stood next to you in like almost like kind of that circular type fashion. It won't be like like an actual circle, but you know what I mean? People will be dotted around. You can kind of just say, look, it's okay, girls, I've got it. I'll be back in a minute. Let me go and sort it. And then just step away. You know, there's little moves like that you can do that's like, hey, he's taking control. I really like this guy. Those sort of things, you know, they really pay off. Now, if you're in a group of men, slightly different, same dynamic where you can talk to people, hold eye contact, you know, it's still politeness, but you can touch a lot more, you know, because women, yeah, you can touch women. Don't be afraid. You know, it's not #MeToo. But with men, it's a lot easier. So you can make certain points, you can make a joke, and then you can slap somebody on the back, you can lean in, you know, you can put your hand into personal space, like the midsection area. So when you like make a joke, for example, hand on the shoulder and then a slap on the, kind of on the stomach, the chest, you're moving in. Those sort of things are fine. If the group decides to move somewhere, if the group wants to go over to a table in the corner, make sure you do that properly. Make sure you're not following like the Pied Piper. Make sure you're not rushing over as well. Like one thing that I always used to do. Now, here's the thing, right? You want to be in the center. If you can get there, if you want to be in the center of the group, you want to sit in this middle chair, everybody's around you, and then the focus is on you. The attention is on you. When you're sat on the end of a table, it's hard to be, you know, the main guy. But I think the movement over to that table is probably more important because that's more so what people are going to see. When you're sat on your own, you can still, you know, emit kind of outlier male high-level body language, and you'll still be noticed. And women don't mind a quiet guy. Women don't mind like an introvert and whatnot. So you can still play that card. But moving over to the table is essential. So something I used to do, if I was in a group of people, I would go at the back of that group. Now, everyone thinks the leader is going to be at the front. What women like to see is the guy at the back of the group kind of like directing everybody. Like you grab the door, you pull it open, and you're like, go on, guys, after you, after you, after you. You let everybody in. You make sure they're all okay. Almost like the mother hen counting the chicks in. You know, you're looking after the group. You're making sure everyone's okay. You're walking along, you stop, you look at the back, you know, almost like the leader of the tribe. You look back, okay, he's at the back on his own. You walk back, you okay, buddy? Arm around the shoulder. That is massive. That is massive. If you can play that card where you're at the back and you're like holding two guys like that and you're like, yeah, you go in first, you know, and you push them in, okay, you're all sorted, guys. I'll go and get the drinks or I'll go and get the waitress. You're the one commanding the experience. It's an absolute game changer, I'm telling you. The next thing we're going to talk about is greeting people. Now, it goes without being, you know, it goes without saying, guys, strong handshake. You have to have a strong handshake, okay? You have to drive. A lot of people kind of go in slow, drive it in. Because at the end of the day, if you catch that person on their fingers, you're still in there. If you catch them wrong, like as long as you drive in strong, you're always going to have some level of a strong handshake. While you're doing that, hold strong eye contact, shake firm, like I said, stand firm. That's a very simple, easy thing. But the other thing you can do with greeting, especially with women, when I meet women, or even men too, but when I meet women, I go straight over and I cut the awkwardness. I'll go straight over, give them a massive hug, really embrace them, give them a squeeze so that they can feel the power. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm strong, I'm built well. Let me give you a little squeeze. I like that sort of thing. And then you can kind of like stand to the side, put your arm around her waist or something, direct her wherever she needs to go. When I meet girls on first dates, I hold their hand within like the first 20 seconds. I'm like, here, give me your hand. Like we're crossing the road or something, or I'm trying to direct her to a table or whatever. Or we're just walking down the road. I'll grab her hand. I'll be like, I just feel weird if I'm not, holding your hand. It feels strange. I like to touch. I think touching just breaks barriers down. It's really good. And when I'm meeting guys, there's multiple things you can do. You can Donald Trump this shit. Okay, you can go in for a handshake and you can twist your hand on top so you feel dominant. You can turn their hand on top so that they feel dominant. And they're like, I like this guy. I don't know why, but I really like him. He's friendly. You can pull their hand into your midsection and shake it from there and maybe pull yours on the bottom. That's like the ultimate, very nice to meet you, I'm a friendly guy. Or you can twist your hand on top and drive it into their stomach. That's an intimidating one, okay? So there's multiple different methods you can do. The second thing you can do is your second hand. So you go in with a strong handshake, you're squeezing, and you'll see people reach over and slap on the shoulder. Or the other one where people cup underneath the elbow. Okay, so you go in for the handshake, you cup underneath the elbow. Just the more you're touching somebody, the more dominant you appear. It's a very simple rule, guys, okay? You see dads do this with their son, where they'll maybe like shake their son's hand and then they'll put hands like around the back of the neck. That's ultimate dominance. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying do that with everybody, but I've seen people like come in with a handshake or something, or when you do the side high five and you pull each other in. Some guys are like very crushed like that with their hands and they're letting the other guy lead. Come in, slap the hand, one big arm round the back. It can even be like here as well. And it's just the more domain you have over other people's bodies and the more kind of open you are to touching, the more dominant you look. Because it's a brave thing to do. It's you're touching somebody else's body. You're invading their personal space. You're basically saying, I have domain over your physical presence. It's a strange thing, but you'll get used to it, okay, guys? Now, something that connects to this is orientation and personal space. So a great example of this, guys, is front on. So when you're stood front on with somebody, you're basically toe-to-toe. It's a face-off. Okay, it looks like you're going to fight each other. You've got to be very careful with that when it comes to men. And when it comes to women, it's not ideal unless you're going to like kiss or get very intimate, okay? You can use that in your favor, but it's one of the areas where we're not very lenient towards that, okay? It's not the worst area. The worst area for personal space is being behind somebody for obvious reasons. If you're stood a couple centimeters behind somebody and they're feeling pressured that you're on their back, and they turn around and you're right there, they're probably going to be really pissed off with you. You think when you're standing in a queue or a line trying to get a drink, if you were like an inch away from a woman or a man that you didn't know, they'd probably turn around and be like, what the fuck are you doing? That's really awkward. So you'll see, for example, if you're very intimate with a woman or you're very, friendly with a guy that you've known from school or something like that, you'll see people come up from behind and give them a massive hug from behind. That's totally acceptable if you know the person. Like I said, it's very intimate. It's the closest possible friendships. Where are people when you meet them for the first time? Where are they most comfortable? Because here's what a lot of guys will do. They'll see a woman that they like. They'll walk straight up to her. They'll be front on facing her, shoulders, everything. She might be in a corner. And they're giving her that impression that, hey, like I'm here to dominate and whatnot. Puts a lot of women off. Now, we've got evidence of this in real life. The place where people are most comfortable is sports stadiums. You have to think, okay? You sit next to strangers all the time. You stand next to strangers all the time when you're in a sports stadium. You're shoulder to shoulder. But you're okay with it. You don't have a problem. You're not like, hey, buddy, can you fucking move to the next seat because this is weird? You might go to a cinema and you quite like to have that one space, gap or whatever. But that's another example. You're sitting in the cinema next to strangers all the time and you've got absolutely no problem with it. We don't mind that personal space being shoulder to shoulder. Use that to your advantage. If you're talking to a woman, you could stand next to her. For example, you could put a hand around her waist and you two are both looking out at the world together. So it's almost like it's us two against the world. It gives this really good effect, and you can kind of, you don't have to talk as much. It's not as intimidating. So if you're a guy who gets quite scared, you can stand next to a woman, you can kind of embrace that moment, you can look out at the world, you can pick things to talk about. Makes it less intimidating. A lot of people do it on dates where they will sit like on a bench next to a woman. She'll be right here. You know, if you ever get that scenario where it's a booth or a bench, do that. Because it kind of, on a first date, I know a lot of guys get really intimidated. Now, I like sitting here and I can look her in the eyes and whatever, and I can make it really intense. If I wanted to make it if I wanted to make a move, if I really wanted to kiss her or something like that, I would say, okay, let's try and find a seating area where we can sit side by side. We can almost have that element of unity where it's me and you here against the world looking out at everything. You know, we've got that orientation where we're side by side. She's very disarmed because it's the least threatening position. I could throw an arm around her. You know, I can start touching. I can get very close, hand on the thigh, something very basic. You know, I can whisper in her ear. It's like all sexual things. That works very, very well, okay? Now, when it comes to men, yeah, front on face-offs can lead to fights. It's very dangerous. Side by side, all guys seem to be okay with it. It's not really a problem. You come up behind a guy and you're too close, like he's going to get annoyed. It's probably going to lead to a fight. So with a lot of men, like for example, you meet them and then you can maybe like move to the sides. You can have that orientation where, like I would stand just off 45 degrees. I would be talking to a guy that I've just met and I would stand here or there. And then it's very, like you can hold strong eye contact. You can have great body language, but that individual is not feeling intimidated by you, which in most scenarios isn't my aim. I'm just trying to be social. It might be a business interaction. It works very, very well. You can even make yourself seem very important. For example, if he's looking at you front on, let's say, where he was here, but I've moved myself to the side, and now we're looking at each other from here, my shoulders are positioned that way, but I've turned my head and I'm holding eye contact. My attention is kind of here and it's semi here. So it's like I'm really important. This individual's got their shoulders and eyes and feet and everything pointing towards me. So it makes me look mega important, you know, to people looking, but also to that individual that I'm talking to, that guy. He's now thinking, well, I want to hear what this guy wants to say. Like the social dynamic changes. I'm kind of like stood to the side, just chilling, just turning, just like minding my own business, you know, and I'm just looking here, just holding eye contact and yeah. And then I look off and it's like he's vying for my attention. It's like son and dad, okay? Works very, very well. So moving on to two alphas. This is a scenario that you won't really encounter too much, but it's definitely worth speaking about. Is now and again, you will meet a guy who's also got body language that is on your level, who's also as confident as you are, who's also as jacked as you are, well-dressed, etc. You can't intimidate this individual. They're just going to hold eye contact the same as you do. They're going to give you a strong handshake. They're basically going to mirror you. They're going to be the exact same person that you are. So what do you do in this scenario? Do you try and out-alpha them? Do you try harder? No. Okay, this is what idiots do. I've seen guys do this. They force it too much. It just looks stupid. They try and raise the volume of their voice. It's just like, this is too much. Just live with it. Just accept it. Both of you are high-level men. Just embrace it. Just get on with the day, okay? Just do what you're doing normally. Just hold eye contact with that individual. Just settle into your zone, like I said. This is just going to go on for a long time. This isn't a battle between two people. This isn't, I'm going to stare at you until you look down. It's just like, these are two high-level guys who are meeting. And you're just going to hold eye contact. You're going to have a strong handshake. Probably just going to go in for a handshake and slap each other on the shoulder. It's going to be very, you know, it's going to be, like I said, a mirror image of one another. Men like this, just accept it. Just accept it. It is what it is, okay, guys? There's nothing more I can say on that. One scenario that is similar to that is confrontations. Now, confrontations, nobody really wants one. Nobody really wants one, but they're going to happen at some point in your life. So the trick is, guys, ideally, you don't want to fight. You know, I once heard the phrase that if you get in a fight, either way you lose, guys, because you either end up in a jail cell or you end up in a hospital. Okay, you can't really win. So it's just like there's no real benefit to fighting. And why would you want to do that anyway? There's all these beautiful women out here. There's all these guys that you can network with, have a great conversation with. You can have a good time. It's like you don't want it. The problem is other people do. Other people who are drunk, they take a bunch of drugs, just abuse their bodies and whatnot, and they're not in a good state of mind to have a decent conversation with. So somebody looks at you, doesn't like you because you're a good-looking guy, you're in shape, whatever. Your girls are talking to you, so he just decides, you know what, I'm going to fight this guy. I'm gonna have a few drinks, and I'm gonna go over there and call him a prick. So he's kind of in your face. He's trying to, piss you off and whatnot. The best thing to do, if you're stood front on, you're encouraging that confrontation. So number one, you're diffusing the situation. You're basically saying to this guy, look, I don't want it. I don't really want to fight. You can still not be a pussy. You don't have to look down at the ground. You don't have to be fearful. You're turning your, like I said, shoulders to the sides. You're still holding eye contact, but you're not saying, look, I want to fight. It's not that face-off. It's like when you see two dogs, for example. First thing that they'll do is kind of lift their fronts up, go on their hind legs and look at each other and just face each other. They'll go straight for it. They're not going to like turn to the side. If one turns to the side, the other one's like, oh, he probably doesn't want it. It's the same thing, okay? So you don't have to back down and look at the floor and look intimidating and be like, sorry, mate. But you can just kind of orientate yourself to the side and just look at this guy, because then it almost looks as though like you're trying to get out of there. You don't really want this confrontation. And that will likely diffuse it to the point where he's just like, oh yeah, fuck off. And then you'll both walk off, right? We've all seen that happen. But number two is great because you're in a fight stance. You don't want to be front on in a fight. You could get pushed, you could fall back. You kind of want to be side on with one leg slightly behind the other because that's the most balanced position. And you've got your strong dominant hand behind. It's better to defend a takedown. You can land one on your own. Do you know what I mean? It's just a better scenario. So orientate yourself slightly in that confrontation scenario and just be prepared whilst diffusing. It's just the best possible scenario. It shuts everything down. Now, the final thing I want to talk about when it comes to interacting with others, guys, is photos and social media. I've made a big push on my channel about this. I've spoken to you guys about online duality. I've spoken about how important it is to have a videographer and photographer in your life because they can frame you to make you look as good as possible, because we're not all lighting experts or filming experts. And it's hard to take pictures of yourself, film yourself, and it just doesn't look as good, okay? So the world that we're in now, online duality, it means a lot. It makes a massive difference. Now, in photographs, what you will see, I'll give you some quick examples. You might see the one guy in the middle with his arms around two of his friends. Well, he looks like the dominant figure there. You might see one of the guys with his hands in front of his testicles, where he's in that position, like he's really looking defensive. His shoulders are tucked in. He's kind of like moving away, moving down like that, and he's just making himself look as small as possible. You have to avoid those scenarios, okay? So if you're the guy who's stretched out, you're in the middle, you've got your arms around the other two guys, you're bringing people into the photo. Even if you're on the side, stretch an arm over, take up as much space as possible, invade other people's spaces. If you're on the end, you can stretch out your right hand with a drink. You can have it down by your side, arm out around the other guys. Like you've made yourself look massive. The reason being, I know it sounds silly, but those photos do the rounds on social media, and women will notice, other guys will notice. People say, who the hell is that guy? The amount of friends of girlfriends that I've had follow me on social media where they're I was talking to my cousin the other day, and she was saying, oh, one of her girl mates was like, who the hell is that? Why'd you follow him? Oh, I really want to, you should link us up together. I'm going to start following him. I saw somebody the other day follow me, and I was like, she looks kind of pretty. Clicked on it. She was a friend of my other friend who follows me. You don't have to put two and two together to figure out how she found me. Do you know what I mean, guys? So your photos, the way that you frame yourself, especially when you're with others, it makes the world of difference. Okay, guys, in this final chapter, what we're going to do is we're going to address kind of additional things that you can add to your body language that don't necessarily need its own sector. If I sat there and tried to talk about them for like 10 minutes, I'd be talking out of my arse. So what I've done is I've grouped them together, and I don't want to call them extras as such, but they are things that you can add to your body language to really bring everything together, extra tips, so to speak. So the first one we're going to start with is gestures and the truth plane. Now, gestures, the best thing that you can do, you can stay within this kind of middle range. I think people have seen Andrew Tate do that triangle thing where he kind of sits like that, and then he gestures out of that. Politicians do the same, okay? And there's actually been a name created for it where it's slightly different. It's called the truth plane, where if you gesture really high, it means you're excited. If you gesture too low, low shoulders, it means you're low energy. This middle section here is like the perfect middle ground, okay? And they call it the truth plane. So Andrew Tate doing that with his fingers, that's like a power pose thing that people do. But for example, is here. This was created by Mark Bowden, and he puts his fingers here across his midsection, and he gestures from out here. And what it does is it portrays truth. It portrays trust. It says it's very primitive. It's like if you've got your hands in your pockets, somebody doesn't know what you're holding. If you've got your hands behind your back, it's very untrustworthy because it's like he could be holding a knife behind there. And that's something that humans have learned over centuries of human existence, okay? That's dangerous. Show me your hands. People used to say that, show me your hands. So that's what you're doing. You're putting them here around your body and you're gesturing. You know, you're gesturing within that kind of range there. Like I said, when people get annoyed, people get too excited, they come up here, you know, oh, for God's sake, when they're too low, oh, this is just annoying, I can't be bothered. You want to be in that middle zone. And you like this for politicians, like you'll see them do this all the time. Obama was very good at it. Or he'd have his hands clasped like that, and he'd be making these open hand gestures, and he'd just constantly be doing this from that like middle zone. They've all been taught the same thing. Okay? Now on that same plane, you can have your hands out there as well. So if you're trying to be more of like an aggressive type of guy, or let's say the alpha figure in the room, there's nothing wrong with making these open palm gestures as wide as that, you know, and doing these long swoops. You guys have seen me do that when I did the speech for my dad's charity football game. I was making gestures like this. It's very open palm, very wide, and I'm bringing it around like that within that same zone there. I'm kind of like pushing away like that. I've got my hands out wide and I'm gesturing. I'm just taking up more space. I'm making myself look bigger. Now, the reason this is important is I learned this in body language years ago. They said if a woman makes a lot of gestures, if she makes a lot of like wide palm and she's like over exaggerating everything and talking like this, they said it's very likely, and I tested this theory, it's very likely that she grew up without a father figure in her life. I've tested this. When women have done this, you know, it's very personal. But I've said to them, like, we've got into discussions and I'm like, your dad wasn't around for certain whatever. Like I said, it's very personal. You have to watch out who you say that to. They're usually like, how the hell do you know that? I would say 9 times out of 10, they go, how the hell do you know that? And it's because what they're doing is they're overcompensating for that lack of a masculine figure. So what that tells you is that that woman is becoming more masculine by doing wider kind of open gestures. Or as a man, you can use that to your full effect too. And one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to do those sort of gestures where you go, I don't know, you know, open palm stuff. It makes you very soft and submissive. You'll see a lot of politicians. Trump was very good at this, where he would make statements, you know, where he'd push his hands down like that. He would make statements and it's almost like a calming thing, you know, and like I said to you earlier about the chimps, you put your hand up, you're looking for permission. When you gesture like that and you make statements and you push out, it's commanding. It's like, this is how it's going to be. I'm not asking for permission. Everybody stop. Like you'll see a teacher do that to students. Whereas you'll see the student say to the teacher, can we please come on? You know, it's sort of like that nature. You want to give that impression. You're in the truth plane. You're making gestures from here. You know, you're not doing the open palm thing. You're staying within that zone. It works. It's so effective. Next up is power poses. Now it's very simple, guys. You can boost your testosterone with power poses. I always advise you guys to do it before going on a date or before going for a job interview. Now you can't really do this in public, but this one is a power pose where you can stand with your hands up like that. If you stand for long enough, science has proven you can increase your testosterone levels, which is interesting because it shows us that body language can trick your brain into thinking you're more confident than what you are. See, there's like a carrot stick effect here. You know, one is complementing the other one. You're chasing this and it's giving you positive feedback at the same time, or it can be giving you negative feedback on that loop at the same time, depending on how your body language is. Hence why if somebody's in a photo and they're like that and they're very submissive and then they're like, oh, I've got low confidence. Yeah, because that's the aura that you're giving off and you're telling your brain you don't belong here. You're not one of the like high level guys in this group. That's not good. Now, another power pose is, for example, standing with your hands on your hip. You'll see like a parent do that to a child when they're looking over them, or a teacher to a student, or somebody in the military who's got a high ranking position to the cadets, or somebody who's just joined. Another one is you see it in movies when somebody is led on the table. They stood over the table and they've got their hands on the table and they're leaning forward, looking down and looking over somebody. These power poses, they're very aggressive. They're very dominant. You've got to watch out. You can use them in a sexual sense. Works fantastically. If a woman sat down and you stand over her, you grab like her face, for example, and you start like kissing her, you're in a very dominant position there. That's what these power poses can be used for. Obviously, you have to be very careful who you use them on because it's very intimidating. You don't want people to feel bad unnecessarily. We're going to move on now to closed and open body language. Very simple. A lot doesn't need to be explained. Open body language, for example, let's say there's a woman sat here on my right. If my hand is like that, I'm almost guarding. I don't want that. I don't want this arm guarding from that woman. I want her to know that I'm interested. So what I will do is I will grab a chair and I'll maybe turn my body like that. So my shoulders are now facing her. I've got my arm on that chair and I'm spread out. I don't want to have like a drink. Let's say I've got a drink here and I keep picking it up and it's blocking her. The elbow's blocking her because it gives off these kind of cues that I'm not interested. So what I'll do when I'm talking to women is, for example, you could put one leg on top of the other. When you cross your legs and you kind of create that figure four, you can do that, but always do it on the side that isn't facing the woman. What I like to do is I like to have my legs separated. I like my penis to be pointing at her. I like to say, hey, look, this is here for you whenever you need. A great tip is to get yourself away from the table. So if you sit like this at a table, nobody can see your body language. So move back a little and show her your full body. That really works too, okay? That's a great tip that I've been using for years, where you'll roll the chair back, sit back slightly from the table and show her everything that's going on. But what you want to do is you want to clear things out the way. I'll give you an example. If you approach a woman in the club, she might have her handbag in front of her. She might be talking to you like that. It's when people have the strap and the handbag is around the front, that's like a defense mechanism in those vulnerable areas. And people will, like, for example, when a woman's laughing and she'll do that and she'll cover up her mouth. They're all defensive moves. It's like, don't see me, don't come towards me. You want open. That's the difference between open and closed body language. You want any blockage. That is my rule, okay? If there's something in the way, move it. Show that there's a clear path to you. It's the same when you're having business interactions, business negotiations with men. Let them know that you are either open to this idea, you want to act mysterious, you want to have it closed, maybe we're not really feeling this. You can manipulate that in your own way. So you can push that in your favor, okay? You can say, do we want to act like we're not interested in this deal? Do we want to act like we really want to work with you? We're open and positive. We're a little bit closed off and timid. You can use it. You can literally manipulate it in your own way. You can tell if a woman's in a relationship or single based on her body language. You can tell from certain open and closed things that she does, certain things that she puts in her way, the bag, like I said, to the side, blocking you. There's a woman that I know that I'm very good friends with. I didn't know she was in a relationship. We went on a date. At the end of the date, I just took a step towards her because I thought I was too far away from her, and she took an immediate step back, and I was like, she's in a relationship. She's just on a date with me because she's probably intrigued, but she's in a relationship. I figured that out immediately from one backward step. You can tell. And yeah, it turns out she's in a relationship. She was like, hey, I just wanted to, she shouldn't have been, but she was like, hey, I just wanted to kind of figure this one out. But those are the sort of things that you can pick up on, guys, with open and closed body language, okay? So something that we have touched on throughout this course is space. But something I just want to remind you guys of is always take up as much space as possible. Always be trying to monotonize as much space as possible. Like I said, in photos, when you're sat down, when you're interacting with other people, whatever you're doing, just try and take up as much space as possible. That goes for a phone, a wallet, spread it around the table. The more space that you take up, the more dominant you appear. Now, a golden rule that I have is if you're stood and you can sit, then sit. If you can lie down instead of sitting, then lie down, get comfortable. If you can really relax like this is another power pose actually, and you can really lean back, then do that too. Just always take up the most relaxed pose possible with the most space possible. Makes the world of difference, okay, guys? That's like silverback ape-like behavior. You'll always see them led down, relaxing, taking their time. That's what you're trying to go for. It's a very extreme example, but I'll be on the bench press in the gym sometimes, and I will just lie back like this. After I've done that quick set, I'll lie back and I'll stretch out. I'll stretch my arms out. I'll be acting like a fucking gorilla in the gym. It basically says I'm not intimidated. I'm not worried about anything around me. I'm taking up as much space as possible. I own this little space. I own this domain. I'm not worried about an attack coming from behind. I'll lie back like this and I'll close my eyes for a couple seconds because I'm not worried about somebody coming to attack me. I feel like I own this area. Now, the final one, guys, and it's very important, I mentioned it a few times in this course, is congruency. If you've got the world, if you could be 6'4" and jacked, if you're very timid and your body language is poor, you're going to look like a pussy. If you've got the best body language in the world, you've nailed it, people are really convinced by you, and then you start talking and you're talking like this and you're really nervous and you're trying to get your nerves out, you're trying to get your words out quickly. I mean, again, guys, that isn't going to work. So everything has to be congruent. So you have to target all areas. Get in the gym, master your body language, the walk, the standing, the sitting, somebody shouting your name and you quickly turn. It's like you need all of this. You need to slow that down and be like, yeah, so it's going to take time. Okay, you're going to have to master every single component of body language. Tonality matters, the pace at which you move matters. The little tiny things, like I said, just having an arm that's blocking that woman from seeing you, just turn in and open your legs. Everything, it needs to be a whole thing, okay? And at some point, you will get to a stage where it becomes automatic and it seeps into your brain. And you've done it so much that you don't really even have to think about it. You can catch yourself in moments and it looks so fluid and organic. That's where the congruency comes in. And that is when you will have good body language and you will give the aura of an outlier male.